Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be here with all of you. This is going to be a very, very special conversation here tonight. I think this is going to be, a very, very amazing conversation. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's have yet another amazing conversation here. I think it's going to be awesome. So, yeah, I'll put on the opening music and away we go.
Of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. Well, as you probably guessed, as you can infer from the title of this stream, it is my birthday. I'm 36 years old, and for health reasons, I can't go out. Usually I like to spend the day, the evening, having a nice dinner with a few friends, but all of you are here. So I thought since I have to stay in, it was actually my wife's idea, and she'll be joining us in a minute. Matches will be on in a little bit. I thought we might as well just have an online birthday party. So I am opening up the stream. Anyone who wants to hop on is welcome to. I figure a theme of our conversation could be everything that we've accomplished this year, everything that we're looking ahead to as a community. I'm wearing my Center for Political Innovation t-shirt because I love this community. This is the link if you want to join. It's in the chat. I'll post it in the chat again. It's on the Rockfin. Rumble seems to be having some trouble. I'm not sure if the Rumble's working or not, but anyone who wants to join can join. A few people, are scheduled to hop on. Anyone who wants to come on, we can have more than one person on at once. We may have to transition between people, but it's going to be fun. So if you want to just come on and socialize with people, have a fun internet birthday with me. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to this community. And I'll talk more later, but I'm going to bring on our first friend, Peter. How you doing, Peter?
Hey, happy birthday, you old codger.
How you doing? Yeah. Yeah, I'm 36. I'm no longer a youth.
Yeah, you've reached the youth cutoff point.
Yeah, in Cuba, you can join the Young Communist League, but you have to join before you're 30. But once you're 35, you're out of it, right? You're not a youth when you were 36 anymore. So I am 36 years old as of today. So there you go.
One of my friends today said the phrase "life after youth," and I thought that was a fun phrase. Had nothing to do with your birthday, but happy birthday.
Isn't that weird how things all just kind of sync up like that? It's like if you hear a song, your friend hears a song, and it's weird how these things work. Something just kind of gets out there in the universe, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. So how's your day going? We had the CPI meeting earlier, but other than that.
Well, it was a tremendous meeting. And we got some great stuff planned. February 17th, Rage Against the War Machine 2, Defeat the Deep State. We are summing up a lot of different great things. So that was a great meeting. And, my wife has got family in town. So cool. We had a nice meal here at home. And, just kind of taking it easy. I've got different projects I'm working on, the new textbook and different things to that effect. And also premiering, I'll just throw this out there, premiering tomorrow at 6 p.m. will be this organizational report I put together, everything that CPI has done for the year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because we have the speech from Jeddah from the conference. But there's actually even more in this, you said.
Mm-hmm.
For one, you're reporting on the conference itself.
And there's video of everything. I edited video of everything we've done, basically. And then I laid out our plans for the coming year. So this is...
it's exciting.
This is going to be exciting. It'll be on the CPI YouTube channel and this YouTube channel simultaneously at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And then I'll probably stream after that for New Year's, right? Why not close out the year with a stream? But tonight, it's my birthday. Wild times. I'm a Capricorn. as they say, right?
Right. Yeah. So that means we need to get on TikTok and figure out what those witches have to say about what's going to happen for you.
Yeah, how does that work, right? There's witches on TikTok. I know that what do you call it? Right, the astrology thing is a big thing
Yeah.
on TikTok, right?
They
So is
love
that-
it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is really like that is so appealing about it at this time. It's always been popular. Obviously, there's some reason it's much more popular because of TikTok right now.
I see. Interesting. So the Capricorn is a ram, right? He's got big horns coming out of his head.
Appropriate.
And he's
Considering you've
stubborn.
got horns coming out of your head.
Exactly,
You
right.
eat babies and stuff.
Oh, do they do that? Do rams eat babies? I don't know.
No, I don't know. I
Oh,
figure
yeah.
they got horns.
Oh, okay.
Might
yeah,
as
there
well.
you go. But yeah, and they're stubborn, I think, right? So there you go. What is your astrological sign, Peter?
I'm a crab, actually. The Cancer.
Cancer is a crab. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
All
Right.
that.
Okay. And what do they say about cancers?
We're very empathetic.
Okay.
Which I am. I'm quite empathetic, but I'm not really known for being empathetic. I'm
Well,
known for being
sometimes
kind of hard-headed as well.
Sometimes what you're known as is not what you really are, right? People who know you.
Oh, is it? Like, is that how things are sometimes?
No kidding. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
No, I do think I will say, I've noticed things a little different lately. Things
Okay.
have not been the same in terms of how people have been treating me or you for that matter online. There's been a little bit more respect, I've noticed.
I've just been blocking people. That's what I just do. When the haters show up, I just hit block, block, block.
Well, I'm not saying that there's no haters.
Right.
They're always going to be there. I mean, we're saying stuff that is going to bring those types to the yard.
Yeah, well, one thing I've noticed is that the haters can't make up their mind if I'm a raging patriot American chauvinist or I'm just a knee-jerk anti-American lover of tyrannical regimes who just hates America. Because I see people tweeting both at me simultaneously. Someone will have a flag and they're like, "Oh, I bet you're in CPI now." And then somebody will be like, "I support Putin and I hate America." And they'll be like, "Oh, I bet you're in CPI now." It's like,
Yeah. Well, that and
What is it?
the Palestine thing, I think, too, also doesn't help because a lot of the other people who are pro-Palestine are that America-hating jackass that wants to burn everything down. But it's like, that's not really the problem for you and I. It's not about wanting to burn everything down. It's that imperialism is globally dominating everything, and that's not good.
Right. Right. And I mean, it's wild. It's very wild. And, you've been talking about overpopulation is bullshit for a really long time.
Yes.
You've been on
Yeah.
top
The
of that.
original documentary was in 2018. I had been talking about it much longer than that.
What
but-
got you on that kick? Because, that is overpopulation. I was just talking to a friend about this today. It is just so much of the religion of the 21st century. I mean,
the thing that got me on it was vegans. Originally, I found, I when I was younger, I was not a vegan. I was never a full vegan or anything, but I kind of thought that was like a nice, aspirational, healthy lifestyle. I didn't really look at it from the whole, I'm saving the earth by being a vegan thing. I've never really believed in that, but I thought, and having a bit of an adjacent diet earlier on in my life to that type of person, I was exposed to a lot of people. It's also the anti-natalists and the people that just hate children, just vehemently hate the idea of being around kids ever. Not just not having kids, they don't just want to not have kids, they hate kids. And that whole thing, just seeing the internet, there's all these subreddits and forums and all about overpopulation, how everything's all crowded. And it's well, why do you think that? In fact, that's part, I think, of even how I got into Marx, was just kind of figuring out why people care so much about overpopulation. It led me back to Malthus. And I read Malthus and it's food production. I was well, that's not true about food production at all, because we produce 1.5 the amount that we need to. now, and we have significantly more people than in Malthus's time. That's ridiculous and stupid. And we keep producing more than we need at a faster rate than we need. Like, the overproduction problem has nothing to do with not being able to produce enough or producing too much for demand. It's what we repeatedly talk about with the crisis of overproduction. It's about the fact that things are produced at such a rate, but the working class doesn't have the ability to buy back all of the product of its labor because it's not being paid the value of its labor.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, like, once those things started to click for me, that was where I was like, you know what? Liberals seem to really want everyone to die. Why the hell is that? What the hell is why? That makes, like, you're allegedly the side that is all empathetic and nice and like the crab, allegedly. But you hate people. You hate children. You hate adults. You just hate everybody. Why? What the hell is that isn't the empathetic view. That's terrible.
Yeah, well, it was weird because I grew up, in my household, my dad's an environmentalist, and overpopulation was just accepted as fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, when I was around, some of the Maoist communist groups, they never even said anything to me about it. But when I joined Workers' World, every time they said overpopulation, they'd say, I would mention it. They'd say, well, you can't say that. That's racist. And I just
Mm-hmm.
like, why? And they were like, well, it's racist, and you just can't say that. And I was just like, okay. And they knew that overpopulation was wrong, right? That it wasn't correct, but they couldn't really explain why.
Uh-huh.
This thing that Sam Marcy had told them. And then every so often, some of their ideas that were contrary to this, like, radical environmentalism stuff would slip through. Like, for example, Sam Marcy had always said to them, we're not against nuclear power. We're against,
Mm-hmm.
We don't trust the capitalists, but we don't trust them with any energy or any corporation, but we're not against nuclear power. And he would
Mm-hmm.
insist they never say they were against nuclear power. With other things too, he would say, we're not against GMOs. We're not against, scientific technological advancement. We just don't necessarily trust the corporations that make them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to make it about class and not make it like we're against scientific discoveries. And that I could get. But then it was afterwards when I was kind of on my own, and I was going to Russia and stuff. I was trying to make sense of things. And that's what I give the LaRouche people the credit for, because,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they explained, I had always thought, and this was back when I was in, the Workers' World Party, I'd always thought that the higher stage of communism was just like behaviorism or something. Like, people just
Mm-hmm.
learned to be good after so long. And when it was explained, well, no, it's based on a higher level of abundance. Right.
Yes.
And that each of these historical stages have involved a higher level of abundance. That's why they're a higher mode of production. They're producing more efficiently. That was a huge breakthrough. And I'm like, oh, okay. So communism, you have to have a huge amount of abundance in order to, that was a huge breakthrough. Right. And so then that's what I do give the LaRouche people credit for, is that they have really jumped on this. But you know what book is actually very good on this question is, have you ever heard of this book, Economics: A User's Guide by Ha-Jin Chang?
I have not. No.
Yeah.
What's
well,
that?
He's a Marxist economist from South Korea, but he spent a lot of time debunking limits to growth in this.
Oh, excellent.
A friend of mine gave me this book, and I expected it to just kind of be like Richard Wolff or something, just kind of Marxism.
Yeah,
101.
it's got that vibe to it.
Yeah, I opened it and I was actually very impressed. And like, he talks about how, like, if we still had the same mode of production we had 500 years ago, we were all burning wood to keep our houses warm, we would have deforested by now. No question about it. But we don't do that anymore, right? We've moved from coal to natural gas to fossil fuels and that human beings, and he talks about how, like, when the book Limits to Growth was published, if we still acquired oil and gas in the same way we did back then, we would have run out of it, but we developed new ways of doing it. And that human beings are constantly reinventing our relationship with nature to be more efficient, right? And that's kind of what defines us. And if we had a set relationship with Mother Nature, like every other animal does, they would be right, because, you can't just, and that's true for animals generally. Animal species, their population does tend to be stable because ants build their ant farms the same way and have never reinvented.
Yeah, there's no creative element of it.
Yeah.
But probably one of the biggest things, I said, liberals seem like they want to kill everybody, but it's not just like, that's a very straightforward and kind of simple, silly way of saying it. But what it really is when you say the world is overpopulated, you're saying some people shouldn't be here.
Yes.
So who is it that's not supposed to be here? And a lot of the time, ideology ends up directing us towards various races or subcategories, minorities, etc. But it's ultimately just like those ideologies are just picking sections of the working class that are disposable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really it's just another ideology that supports elitism. It's just another ideology that supports the mode of production, the socialization of production with the retaining of the private appropriation of product and profit. It's a thing that it comes from class society. It's just purely that. Like this is ideological, but the ruling class generally believes that it's better than everybody else and that it deserves everything. It's not necessarily that it's the reason for overpopulation, but it's certainly the overpopulation idea always fits in with that. And that's why it also goes hand in hand with like eugenics all the time. You end up seeing eugenics start coming up. And all the time when I talk about degrowth, I've painstakingly linked it back to Malthus through eugenics, because Malthus was a major inspiration for a lot of the names that developed the line of thought that became eugenics. You can find his citations in Herbert Spencer. You can find his citations in Francis Galton, in various other names throughout that time period. And all of them were kind of feeding off. You can find his citations in Darwin, if you want to go looking. He's cited in there. Darwin also cites Galton, his cousin, the eugenics guy.
Yeah, if you decide the pie can only be this big, the only way your slice gets any bigger is by cutting into someone else's.
Exactly.
And no one ever thinks that their slice of the pie is too big. And that's how you get these problems. And that's the book that I did finally revisit and read, which that's such a big part of that book, is R. Palm Dutt's Fascism and Social Revolution.
100%. That's exactly, you have to eventually get there. That's because that articulates the scientific basis for how that all fits into imperialism and fascism. It's just like I haven't seen it articulated in a way. Like I realize that Dimitrov has a similar conception of fascism, but he doesn't articulate the sort of critique of what we would call degrowth now that Dutt does.
Right.
And Dutt is just like, it's so prescient for if you read Dutt and then read Jason Hickel's Less is More, it's so painfully the same thing. And these people are always like, well, it's not about like reducing the population. It's not about reducing consumption. Yes, it is. There's only one thing it can be about. If you want to reduce energy production, that means you want to reduce consumption and population, because it's energy production that has enabled population growth.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, so, there's no rule that says only two people can be in here. And I see Noah, our good friend Noah from Boston.
Oh, I'd love to have Noah on. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Noah, welcome.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Noah.
Good. How's
What's up?
Boston? How's everything?
It's working. I'm doing okay.
Very good.
I was actually going to tag on to something Peter had been saying about like Malthus being cited in Darwin.
Yeah.
There's actually like a quote of like Marx making fun of Darwin for that. It is remarkable about how among beasts and plants, Darwin seems to magically rediscover English society with its divisions of labor, competition, opening up of new markets, discoveries and Malthusianism, struggles for existence.
You gotta love Marx. You gotta love for all the credit that he gives Darwin. He's willing to acknowledge the problems too. That's the thing. A lot of people really love to talk about Marx as though he revered Darwin as like perfect in some way. Like if you go back, there's certain texts that make that. I don't remember any offhand right now, but he like you just said, he completely recognizes the flaws in it too.
Yeah, well, no, there's I think it's because at Marx's funeral, Engels said, just as Darwin discovered the laws of the evolution of the species, so Marx discovered the laws of, and I think people take that a little too seriously. And that Darwin was I mean, he was very much like the newest, the newest kid on the block. It was that era of science, right? I mean, that was, some people even argue, and I have questions about this. I know what Marx means when he calls it scientific socialism, right? But is that the best name? Because he's not really doing experiments and stuff. He's saying, I have this understanding of how history develops and the objective laws of history, and I see socialism coming from that. But he's not like, and so we're going to have a socialism experiment here, and, we'll have control.
Well, if anything, that would be utopianism by the standards of socialism, scientific and utopian.
Right. It's kind of the opposite of what he was advocating in the pamphlet. So, that's interesting. But, but then also like to call it scientific socialism back then, science meant it was new and exciting and cutting edge, right? That was the new way to be. And that kind of what you get at with the, with the brand building and stuff, even I feel like Marx to some degree or other was affected by some of that. Because, so many of his books are, the poverty of philosophy, right? He's writing a debunk of the philosophy of poverty, right? And that so much of the polemics, he's making important points, but he is saying, I'm the good socialist,
He is. He 100% is. And that's kind of like, when you talk about the polemics and you talk about all that, so I don't think that it's as driven by incentive in the way that it is now with Marx, but there is some competitive element to it where he wants to be the premier critic of capitalism. And to be fair, he could back it up, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, as long as you have the competitive situation, it's always going to be there. Maybe the concept of the brand wasn't necessarily as advanced at that point.
But it is a fair point because the polemic is a really big part of the Marxist tradition. And it's a great way to teach. If you want to learn what you learn, you have to learn that by contrasting it with other people. I know Noah's working on a Trotskyism pamphlet. You gave a great talk on Trotsky.
Yeah, Noah's talk on Trotsky was dynamite.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
It was really great. I hope we can get it posted very soon. I know, the other Peter L is working on editing videos right now. And I hope we can get that one up there because it was dynamite. It was really dynamite. You were up there on the chalkboard explaining the laws of pi. I don't want to give it away, but
it was funny too. Like there was a bunch of good jokes in it too.
Yeah, it was great. Absolutely.
I was over operating the camera, cracking up a couple of times.
Well, yeah, and there's actually recently I've been doing some work on that, and I was reading about like the different theories of history, and I was thinking about sort of the way that like sort of cultural criticism has become associated with Marxism. In a way, they're just that sort of thinking is just trying to go back to like Hegel's philosophy of history, which if you understand like the dialectics of it, it's like the reason that Marx becomes a materialist is because Hegel argues that because he is an idealist, right, that the only way you can know or understand history is in retrospect. The only way you can know the Zeitgeist, what God wants history to do, the only way that you can do that is in retrospect because he's an idealist. He doesn't know that there's anything material guiding these social forces that he's observing. And so Marx says, no, that's wrong because reality is objective and material and you can observe this. Now, for the first time, humanity has the ability to influence history, right? Philosophers have only hitherto observed history. The point, however, is to change it, which it's dialectical, right? Because him being a materialist is what allows humanity to force their ideals on reality.
Yes, that's good.
And
that's
so
good.
When you have people like Gramsci saying that we should go back to having this cultural critique in the same way that Hegel argues, he argued that like history is driven forward by these great men who change the mores and traditions of society culturally. He's trying to get us to go back to this idealist conception of a dialectical history, which will, for the first time, which will make us unable to react and understand history as it progresses. So that's perfect for the ruling class because they don't want us to change it.
Absolutely.
Let me just mention, by the way, this stream is open. So if other people want to join, Peter's here, Noah's here. We've got other people coming. In a little bit, Metches is going to come in and she's going to join us, here at the table. That'll be fun. Metches is going to say hi. Other people are welcome to join. So we got the link. But yeah, So Peter, you are working on another documentary film that's coming out. You want to? It's the one about you're working on one about what is the new film going to be about?
I have two that I'm working on
Okay.
external to CPI, and have one that I'm working on with CPI. So
Give us
I
the
have
lowdown.
one. I have two. The first one I'm working on is on self-help. That one's written, and I'm in the process of actually production for it. That one, I actually covered a lot of what Noah talks about with Plato, or not Plato, Hegel and materialism. I covered a lot more simply in it because I'm also trying to make about 16 other points. But and then the next one, I guess, also kind of treads some of that territory as well. It's called Plato is a Bitch. Because this is okay, so this is where I have some contentions, not with necessarily the LaRouche or Schiller organization as a whole. I have questions why the hell they're so fond of Plato, because the man was all about eugenics and population control programs. He advocated a steady state. He advocated a lot of stuff that they are like vehemently against, and it confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah, well, one thing that I noticed that I think is interesting is that the whole narrative of Plato versus Aristotle, that's the John Birch Society, right? The John Birch Society.
Yeah, and they're so into that argument, the
right.
Aristotle versus Plato argument. And it's like, who gives a shit? These people are like, Hegel completely took them down.
Right. Well, the John Birch Society in the Blue Book, and this is like a far right organization from the early 60s, right? Or late 50s, early 60s. They argue that the fight against communism is this like eternal battle between democracy and the republic. And the republic is healthy, and that's what Plato wanted. And democracy is vulgar mob rule, and it's totalitarian. And that communism is just the latest incarnation of Aristotelian democracy. And it almost makes you wonder, when LaRouche had this conception that the liberals were the main danger, which he was kind of right about, if that led him to get really into reading like Bircher kind of stuff, right? It's almost like he tried to develop like socialism with Bircher characteristics, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Because that was a big thing when he was coming up, was the John Birch Society. They were the opposition to Kennedy and the liberals. And
I advocate
that. That's an interesting idea, though. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I advocate a Platonic horseshoe theory, because you got like the far right, right? The far right, they really, there are some people on the far right that really hate Plato, like the Heideggerian Nazi types.
Yeah.
They really hate Plato. And then you have the Marxists who don't like Plato. And then, you can have the opposite, where the liberals who really hate Plato, or, the Republicans who like Plato and they advocate against democracy and stuff like that.
That's the fun thing, too, is that the documentary, my very important documentary that I'm working on after these two, is a horseshoe theory one.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're doing the Plato one, right? And then
I don't know which one I'm going to do. I'm going to actually put out first. It's either going to be the Plato one, which is also about H. Bomber Guy and plagiarism, and also artificial intelligence, and about how these things are essentially, the arguments around them are incarnations of Plato's Republic, which I'm not going to argue from the Aristotelian perspective against, but rather a Marxist one. Okay. And the CPI one I'm working on is about the conference that we just put on. But I'm starting to wonder, this is something that I haven't said to you, but I'm almost starting to wonder if the conference through when we go to Russia, if that's maybe one, because that makes a long documentary where a lot more happens.
Okay.
I'm starting to wonder about that, because we're talking about wanting to be able to screen it with audiences that are completely unfamiliar with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost wondering if this is spitballing kind of stuff that we haven't really discussed, but I figure it's something that we should talk about more, maybe, because just from a narrative perspective, if we start in Portland and end in Russia, that's fucking crazy.
That is pretty wild. But listen, I'm going to take both of you off for now because now I'm going to bring on Metches. You're both welcome to come back on at any time.
Oh, I'm going to go to bed.
But
But also,
open. But I'm just going to bring Metches on for a little bit and introduce Metches. She's going to talk here, and then. But keep in mind, the stream is open, so anyone who wants to join is welcome.
You guys have a great night. Say hi to your wife and happy birthday.
And hi, Noah, and you're both welcome to rejoin. So here we go. All right. Hello, Metches.
Oh, hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey.
It's nice to be here. It's so weird to be watching at the camera out there.
Indeed. How are you, darling?
Fine, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Caleb.
Yeah, she got me a balloon.
A few balloons.
Few balloons. Yeah. So, how you doing, darling?
Fine, and you?
I'm good.
How are you feeling?
I'm great.
How are you feeling about your birthday?
I'm having a happy birthday.
Yes.
You know, it was a great time. We had some great food. Your family's visiting us, and
Yeah.
we had some great food, and we had a great time. And here we are. And now I'm with the online community. So sometimes you might hear Metch's voice in the background. This is my lovely wife, Metches. So.
But how I do to get it on the camera?
Here.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
I like it like that.
So what's on your mind, darling?
No, I don't know. You want to ask me questions? Anyone can ask questions.
Okay.
Woo! It's a party.
Indeed. So, do you want to plug your life of a?
No.
Okay. All right. What else?
I don't know what else you want me to tell the people.
Not much. Whatever is on your mind. So.
I don't know. I'm happy to be here celebrating with you in the internet that we could have it in person. But thank you.
They like her earrings.
Yeah.
No, like her earrings.
Yes. Thank you. I like it. Thank you. Yes, I like color and I like it.
Yeah, you dress with bright colors. That is something you do like.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
They love hearing you laugh.
Thank you.
You have a very distinct laugh.
Thank you. No, we're having a really nice birthday, even that we needed to stay home, but we have a nice lunch. We sing happy birthday to Kayla with a nice cake, and we have balloons, and it was good. It was a really nice birthday party.
Huh?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, darling.
I
it
love
was
you,
fun.
Citalin.
Love you too, darling.
Happy birthday.
Same to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a nice. Is Metches Politica? Yes, I am.
All right.
Someone is asking here. Yes, I am a political, but I organize domestic workers and immigrant workers, and I work with the Latin American politicals. Yeah, I do that, and I close with the political ambience in my country, in Guatemala. Yeah, we are.
Very good.
We are a powerful couple.
Yes.
We're going to change the world. Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well,
okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for being here celebrating with Caleb. Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. So I've got two people who are lined up. So first, I'm going to bring on David Fox from Australia, and then after that, I'll bring on Milhan Stevens. Both are lined up. So David Fox, how you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Happy birthday.
Yeah, you're out in Australia, right?
Yeah. I'm just making a little quick stop here. I'm in a little town called Aria Park in southern New South Wales, just off to a friend's place. And also, too, 31st of December here, so Happy New Year to everyone as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you're one day ahead of us down under, right? And it's also summertime there instead of winter, we're right up here, right? It's the opposite season.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. That's great. And you were visiting family in Sydney, and now you're on your way back to Bendigo, Australia?
Yes, that's right. I'm going to see a couple of friends tonight for New Year's, stay overnight, and then I'll be back home tomorrow around about lunchtime. But yeah, I just had a short break over the time, back to work Wednesday. When I saw the link for the live stream, I could jump on and say a quick hello. And so that's where I'm at the moment. But it's been an interesting discussion so far, what's been discussed about our Malthusianism, and actually, I agree 100% there, because it's when I hear about we got to cut back and on consumption and everything else and cut back. I mean, working people here in Australia are suffering pretty badly with the cost of living. And fuel, energy, all that is quite expensive. And a lot of working families have been suffering over the Christmas, New Year period. And the amount of charities are basically overrun now, and food kitchens, a whole lot. Now they're asking us to cut back more. I mean, where these people are just right off the planet with their thinking, they come up with these ideas. That I was actually just a little something amusing one time. I had an argument with someone who was vegan and Malthusian. They're saying there's too many people and we shouldn't eat meat and all that. And I said, right, well, practice what you preach. You'll be the first on the menu. And they were absolutely appalled. I said, would you do that? I said, absolutely. You'd be. So that's that's what I've got to say to all those who are Malthusian, got these ideas. Well, practice what you preach.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, thank you, David. And we always appreciate you. You're a beloved member of our community. You don't miss a stream, and you're anti-imperialist. You're wanting peace with China, and you're right there in Australia where the anti-China stuff is. It seems like it's pretty extreme these days, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And I hardly watch the mainstream media here. I just have on news sources off the internet now, and I think that I just see it's just blatant bias and everything else, either against China, against Russia. It seems to be pro-Israel, where the majority of the population are not like that. And once they know what's going on, they're absolutely appalled what's going on around the world. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, David, and shout out to everybody in Australia. I know a lot of people watch from Australia, so thank you for everything. And
no problem.
Thank you. Yep. All right. And now I have a friend of mine, Reverend Milhan Stevens, the organizer of the New York City Peace March. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And it was also really nice to see Metches there.
Yeah.
It's been
sometimes they hear her voice in the background, but it was good to just kind of bring her on and let her talk about things. And so how are things at your house?
Well, we moved to Harlem this summer, so we are fully moved in. Kids are going to school. I believe there's a lot of good that we can do here. We were in New Jersey before, a little of a distance from where the ministry was. So I'm so glad we finally made it over here and settled in. We have a beautiful prayer room downstairs. I know you were there with us one time.
Yeah, it's very nice, very beautiful. Beautiful carpeting and they call them icons, or the pictures of people. Is that what you call them? Or
they're kind of like the saints of our movement,
Right.
Like it's very similar to the Catholic Church in that kind of way.
Okay.
But ultimately, these are very accomplished people, and we respect them.
It was very beautiful. And how you had a good Christmas with the kids and with your wife and all of that?
Yes, actually, I was in Tennessee with my family, my folks down there.
All right.
Yeah, a little town called Tazewell. Maybe some of you know.
Okay.
A lot of Trump country out there.
Very good. Very good.
Very, very beautiful.
Well, in my my report that I'm showing tomorrow at 6:00 tomorrow, I have a video of everything that the Center for Political Innovation has done, and a big part of it is the New York City Peace March that you organized. That we brought a good crew of people to join back in May. Do you think that was a successful day? Do you think we accomplished something? Yeah.
And it was not only successful, but it was epic. And when you guys came in, when you were blowing horns and it showed up like the cavalry's here. It was awesome. Yeah, very well done.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of video of that in the report, and then we had that meeting at the UN that we had about with some of the people, some of the clergy, some of the Muslim imams, some of the rabbis. Do you think anything's going to come more of that? Is there going to be more peace marches from that coalition coming up, or?
Well, I mean, it was a good start, and a lot of the effort has kind of shifted to Haiti a little bit to kind of find some real on the ground support and real development, not just talk. And a lot of people raising money all over the place for Haiti, but we haven't seen any real change. So we do have some key people working on that. So it has shifted more in that direction. But there's also, the whole purpose of that march was to let the UN know, here's a better idea. Let's look at the damage done first. Look at the lives that were lost as a result of these wars before we jump into any decision throwing money to just feed the arms race. Why don't we actually look at the cost? And I think clergy it's appropriate for us to step in at this point. and to offer something here. So
Wow.
I had to kind of put on the back burner for a little bit, but I promise you, we'll be right back in.
And also, I know the Korean Peninsula. You were born on the Korean Peninsula, despite being of Japanese heritage. I know that's on your heart very much. So, what do you think of the latest developments? Because I know, like, Kim Il Sung, or Kim Jong Un shot a missile into the ocean, an intercontinental ballistic missile, and things are heating up over there, right?
Well, I think in Korea, it represents what's going on in the whole world. So I like what you said the other time. We were at church and you mentioned how, even Russia, even Ukraine's kind of looking at Korea. I think a lot of other countries should look at Korea as not, maybe of course we want ultimately a peace treaty and peace, but look at Korea as an example. Maybe we can get an armistice. Maybe we can at least stop feeding the arms race and just stop, and let's start there. Before we, everyone wants to make that extreme. Everyone wants to make it, it feeds people's personal agendas. It doesn't actually help the people. So I think we should all reflect on our own countries and our own conflicts, and see, and Korea eventually, and Korea can be a model for peace. That's how I see it. I mean, of course, you're more up to date on the specifics and.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know they tested an intercontinental ballistic missile, which is a big deal, right? And they shot it into the ocean. It's a missile that could hit Japan, that could hit the United States. And the U.S. media kind of left out of all the reports that the reason they did that is because Biden sent a nuclear submarine, which most likely had nuclear weapons on it, to South Korea. And they kind of left that out of the news reports. They made it sound like they just tested the missile because they're evil or something like that. But it's like, well, no, they're responding to the fact that Biden sent a nuclear submarine to South Korea. And they said that when they did it. They said that's why. The other thing, though, and this has been really interesting, they just had a conference of mothers in North Korea. And did you see any of this?
I think you mentioned to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I get a lot of my news from you.
Yeah. Kim Jong-un was crying and begging the mothers of North Korea to have more children. And he was saying, and he was like, he started crying and he said, we need more people. We need mothers. You're such an important part of our socialist nation. And that clip of him crying and this meeting of mothers, it was a really big deal. I mean, it was all over all of their social media, this video. And like, they had women who had a number of different children. I think they had like 10, 12 children. They were getting awards. And it sounds like they're really pushing the idea they need to increase their population, which I think is very interesting. And, the fact that they're emphasizing that so much, I mean, that shows, again, kind of like what I was talking about with Peter and Noah before, and with David a little bit, this idea that we have too many people in the world, and that's the problem. I mean, that's just nonsense, right? I mean, we don't have too many people in the world. That's just not true, right? We do have big problems, but the problems are not because we have too many people, right?
Right. So it's not too many, but what kind of people? How are we raising the next generation to be, good for society?
So I thought that was kind of neat that they did that. And I'm looking forward to the World Youth Festival that we're headed to in March, because that'll be one of the only opportunities for Americans and North Koreans to sit down, right? The American delegation, it'll be 15 American youth, myself included. And there's going to be several hundred youth from North Korea that'll be there. And we can't go to North Korea. It's illegal, right? The State Department has banned going to North Korea. They'll take your passport. So this will be an opportunity. We'll be in Sochi at this global youth gathering for American youth and North Korean youth to have a face-to-face meeting. And I'm very excited about that. I'm making sure that the American delegation and the North Korean delegation, that we have an opportunity to sit down face-to-face and talk things out. So I'm hoping that something comes out of that, because and I think it's important for North Koreans to know that not all Americans hate them. Not all Americans want to kill them. You know what I mean? That's probably what a lot of them think. They probably think we all just hate them and want to kill them. They should know there's a lot of Americans who actually kind of think they're neat in some ways, think that their videos and that their mass games that they do with the shapes and images, and I think that would be a great thing. So I'm looking forward to that. So anything else you want to say here tonight, Pastor Milhan?
No, just happy birthday, Caleb. It's good to see, especially with Menches together. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
more of that.
We're very happy here. Usually I celebrate my birthday, at a restaurant with a few friends or something, but can't do that this year. So we decided to have just an online birthday with our whole community here.
Okay, so that's
part of our community. I'm part of your community, so we're really glad to have you here. And thank you very much. Thanks for coming on, Pastor Milhan. And all my best. Thank you. Yep. Thanks. All right, that was fun. Who else do we have here? Is this? I think Tyler McConnell. Hey, you look cold, Tyler.
Welcome to 36 years old, Mr. Maupin.
I thought you were going to say 36 degrees, but but there you go.
I'm hiding. I'm like Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski. I'm the dude today. I'm Mr. Babysitter.
Okay.
Mr. Mom, I don't know if that's offensive or not, but that's been me today. And I think there's one sneaking up behind me. But I just wanted to hop on here and tell you happy birthday, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And you've been doing the thing where you play video games, at the same time. That's really neat. You should do that more. I think that's great. If people want to listen to me while they play video games, hey, go for it,
I started to do that to troll my high school students. So I could say, I could learn all the cringy Fortnite lingo and bring it up to them in class. But then I thought, what a great way, since I play that anyway, just to put you on. And that way I can spread Maupin far and wide and get a little dub in Fortnite at the same time.
Yeah, well, I thought it was great, and you do great stuff on your channel. Everyone should go subscribe to Tyler's channel because he does great stuff, audiobooks, and he turned me on to Wallace Wattles. He's got Wallace Wattles, his books about Jesus being a socialist, and he really got me interested in Wallace Wattles. And you do great stuff on your channel. You really do. How's the family, by the way? Are they enjoying Christmas break?
They're doing great. Molly, she's getting on here. She wants to say hello. You say hi to Caleb? Hi. She goes, CPI. CPI.
Woo. Good stuff.
Got a couple red diaper babies in the house.
Very good.
But
very good.
I always try to sneak away and do it, but then you know what? It's just part of being a real American. And I got a couple kids, and I like to spread the word. Just hop on here and be real and tell my brother Caleb happy birthday. Welcome to 36, the greatest year of your life.
Thank you.
Everyone looks forward to 18, 21, and 36, and you finally made it. You made it to 36.
I did not know that. Well, I will look at this year in a new light now. There you go. I did not know that. 18 and 21, everyone looks. I didn't know about 36, but there you go.
You bet, buddy.
All right.
Well, it was a pleasure to see you, man. I'll be listening.
All right. Talk to you soon,
wishes.
Tyler.
Happy New Year, bud.
Will do. Now I'm bringing on a longtime friend, Gavin. Gavin from Galesburg, Illinois. How you doing, Gavin?
Hey, great to see you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy birthday. There you go.
Yeah. What's new, Gavin? What's new in your neck of the woods? You're always reading and doing research on different things. I know you're part of the Midwest CPI local thing that's starting. And what's on your mind these days?
Yeah, we just had I don't know if it was the first, but one of the first official in-person meetings, where it's great to, I'll never get over the joy of meeting in person since lockdowns and stuff, you know what I mean? So, it was really good I see Jetta. I see a bunch of Chicago people in the chat, John McCarthy. And so we had our in-person meeting. It was great to see everybody. And we also got some stuff done. We're doing some preparation for hopefully the next conference when people are selecting their, the talks that they're going to give, and I think that people are really, it's our people, we know what it's like to tank a speech or succeed on a speech and to just get better and better through trial and error. And I think that, that CPI has come a long way since, doing, web conferences in which I said a lot of boring things and I think that we're really doing what we're meant to be doing here. And I think that, I was so envious when I saw everybody in Portland. It's just what a great conference that you guys all had. And the room was so beautifully decorated for Christmas as well. Yeah. So what else is new?
Yeah. Well, hey, why don't I bring on, since you're both from the Midwest local, Gabby's here too. So here you all are.
Hey.
Gavin and myself.
Hey, Tyler.
How you doing, Gabby?
I'm good. Just in my house all day too, because it's my day off. So I was like, you know what? Let me have my day off and just do nothing. And I think I kind of failed, but it's just one of those days, We just want to just
do nothing if you're a mom, right? Right? You have to do
Yeah,
something.
like this is my only day off, but like my son's with me, so it's not really a day off. So I'm like, oh, okay, so kind of, but not really. So, happy birthday, by the way, Caleb.
Thank you. What are you
Yeah.
guys cooking up in the Midwest? Right, you're gonna have a get together. You guys are learning different ones of the Saxton lectures and such, right?
So far, yeah, everything. I had the section of was it the? I didn't really watch your whole video, but I'm gonna try to do it. But it's kind of I feel intimidated, to be honest, because I'm like I can't. I'm not that knowledgeable, but like when you like do it your own way, I feel like I'll figure it out. But I just watched some of it, but not the full video, just to see, okay, warm up to it and write notes and everything like that. But next month the next meeting, we're gonna meet up and talk about that.
Okay.
How that
Well, you
went.
learn by doing. That's the main thing. You just got to learn
Yeah.
by doing, right?
Yeah.
It's an art. Gavin, he did at our Midwest, and the one in Missouri, you did the Russian Revolution, the Lenin one, I think, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and that was for a first try. That was tremendous. You did a great job. You hit all the major points. And yeah, it's just a matter of kind of learning the points and learning them well enough to like tell an audience. And we got looking ahead to Vermont, because Vermont this spring, May in Vermont is when we're going to be doing the second level of classes. And I'm working on the second textbook. So I'm very excited. And I've been really having a good time writing the second level textbook, finding all these original texts. And, it'll go from like the history of the Communist Party up until today, and kind of where we're at. And I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah. And, now, Gavin, you were just in Argentina, right?
Yeah, that's right. There were some big changes there. Milei just won. Essentially, the same globalists that put Zelensky in power put Milei in power. So it's not looking too sunny for Argentina right now. But we'll see. You know what I mean? Some of the maybe like Trump, some of the freakouts won't be true, and he won't put people in concentration camps. So who knows?
Yeah. And Gabby, you've been going to Palestine rallies in Chicago, right?
Yeah, there's something going on tomorrow, but I have to double check. I want to go to that one tomorrow and just like practice and stuff like that. But this is random, but like I don't know the holidays if you guys like gotten through stuff, because I'm like this year I couldn't really afford gifts and stuff, and I'm all like, dang, the economy is really messed up nowadays.
Yeah.
And apparently they're putting like less product on certain things and then they're price gouging items or something. And companies been doing that more often. And it's like I noticed that I'm like when I go to the grocery, I'm like, dang, it's like a small little like like a bag of like chips is like emptier. I was like, what the heck? I'm like, whatever. But then I don't know. It's just I don't know. I noticed it's harder. And I went to the mall, Woodfield Mall, and I don't know if you guys, I got emotional, and like I hate seeing old people work because it shouldn't be like. I told my mom or somebody in my family like, oh well, that's how it is. Oh well, and I'm all like, what do you mean that's how it is? Like that's abnormal. We shouldn't. No old people should be working with. Like, I don't know. I just keep seeing that. Yeah, right. And it's like, why are they working their asses off? And I get emotional seeing that because, like, so when I'm going to be kind of working, all of us, we're basically going to be working our whole lives, unless we're like that 1%, which that's never going to happen. So it's like, I thought about like myself and then the next generation. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to get it worse than I'd had it. So it's like, like you said, I think you said, Caleb, about something about, think of like your family, how they came here, they struggled, but like they don't give up. So it's like, don't give up, don't, back down. And it is so hard seeing that stuff. And we just normalized it. And that's the world we live in. And it's so heartbreaking every time. So it's like if you don't cry about it, like what kind of human society we're living under? It's really.
We got to learn to fight. We got to learn class struggle.
Yeah.
We got to learn to occupy our factories and go on strike and stand up to our bosses. And that's how we got these good things to begin with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You know, Lumpia says, John, we had to wait till Gavin kicked Ben Norton out of South America. So, Gavin, you're responsible for the departure of Benjamin Norton from South America. Like, what
Yeah,
happened?
I mean, you know, it's the timing was pretty strange, I tell you. It's almost like right when I got to Latin America, Ben Norton had to go somewhere else. And I don't know, there's rumors about his current hosts getting a little fed up. I don't know if those are true, but we're gonna see. So but in all seriousness, I'm glad Ben Norton is against imperialism and stuff like that. I just Ben, if you're watching this or if you catch a clip of this, I think it would be great if you stop trying to attach anti-imperialism to the synthetic left, to liberals and their cultural proclivities, because we could attract so many more people to stopping this imperialist carnage that goes on around the world if we could be uniting and not divisive. And I think for some people, being on the left, it's like it's a state of being, it's an identity, it's like a religion, and it's like, well, what does it mean to be a leftist? And we get so caught up in being a leftist. I remember, something I'm not proud of is in my teenage years, I used to spend a lot of time on an infamous old internet forum called Left versus Right.
Oh, I've never heard of this. Wow.
And Maoist Rebel Jason was on there a little bit. It was very crazy. There are a lot of kooky personalities on there, but I think that unfortunately that kind of stuff really gets ingrained is just tribalism and feeling like, well, I have to have this cultural position because that's what my tribe believes, and so I don't want to focus too much on the negativity though, because overall what we're seeing is the multipolarist world. It's growing, and people with many different religions and worldviews are, it's sad that those things are not, it can be sad that we don't agree on those things and what have you. But what's amazing is the solidarity that's going on around the world with these systems where people are in their own ways independently breaking out of the American imperialist order. And with Bolivarian socialism in Latin America, with Baathism that's still hanging on in Syria, Juche in Korea, all kinds of things. And I mean, it's obviously we're always singing the song of how American socialism would be different, and it would be profoundly different. But we also don't want to lose hope in the fact that there is a good side in this world, and there are inspiring people who have risen up and broken the chains.
Well, I got to tell you, this Green Book, that we published, that was the first book CPI ever published, was the Green Book. This has sold 195 copies so far this month because I guess Midwest Marx showed it on a TikTok that went viral to like millions of people. That understanding that socialism doesn't have to be Marxist-Leninist, right? That's like a foundation of what we're all about as CPI. That's probably why we made a point of publishing the Green Book, because Gaddafi wasn't a Marxist-Leninist. He was a Islamic socialist, but he was very clearly built a socialist society. And I mean, I think we're doing something really special. I do want to plug, just to remind people, tomorrow we have a 16-minute presentation I did, Report from Caleb Maupin, Our Movement is Growing. What did CPI do this year? What's planned for 2024? I edited it all together, beautiful footage of everything we did, and it's good stuff in a lot of ways. Gavin, you were in Argentina, so you weren't there, but Gabby, you were at the conference. Do you have any thoughts on the conference? Anything that stuck with you? Anything you enjoyed?
Yeah, everything. But I just like how professional we are compared to other organizations. And I'm not trying to be rude, but we're we respect others' opinions and thoughts. We don't try to kick out somebody out because of this or that, they said something wrong. We're very open to that. So that's already a plus. And then I like that people like my messages, my morning messages, and they kind of they liked what I said, and I liked how well thought the speeches were, or the people who were speaking. It was well put out, and I think it's something that is unique about us, and I think that's already going to the masses just naturally, because this hasn't been anything like this for a long time. And just remembering like the whole thing that Caleb said, like clap once, clap twice, that whole thing, like it doesn't feel like that. You feel like you're part of something, and it makes you proud to be an American patriot, like an American, and stand for American values that are rich and always gonna be anti-imperialist naturally if you are a real American and stand against that. And I just like learning about things I never was taught throughout history. And I didn't know certain things that you mentioned, Caleb, in your, that were communists in your town or something like that you mentioned. And I was like very intrigued and stuff. So it's a lot of knowledgeable things. And I appreciate what Caleb has done, for the past.
Thank you.
I was following for like 2 years now, and it's like impacted me so deeply that I can't go back. Like I just can't. Like the more I know, it's like, wow, I can't undo what I know now. So it's like I see the world, the capitalist world, differently. Like you live it, but like you understand certain things and why. So it's like I'm still learning and stuff, but I appreciate what you do. So that's why you're gonna impact and you're gonna do a lot with your life, Caleb. So
thank you.
What I'm saying. Yeah.
Gavin is switching to his computer, mind you. So I just
Okay.
put him out so he can switch. But Gabby, I've talked about this on streams before, but it's really, it's my birthday. And my birthday is special, not just because it's, my birthday, but I came to New York City on my birthday. I actually moved to this city on my birthday. December 30th, 2010 was the day I moved to New York City. And I moved to New York City. I thought I was coming here for 1 month, and I never left. And I came to this city on a Greyhound bus with, in my suitcase. I packed up like a bunch of clothes in my suitcase. And I was in Cleveland, and I had like nothing. I was working at gas stations, and I was selling my blood plasma, and I had like nothing. And I came to Cleveland. I came to New York from Cleveland with nothing, and I came here for a month. And one thing led to another, and I've been here ever since. And I look back at what I've been through, some tough situations, and it again, like it's that relentlessness. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like. The American image of socialism is that socialism is about laziness, that socialism is just, I want the government to give me free things and all of that. And no, I mean, I feel like socialism is very much about like the relentless spirit, working hard to, build and construct and fight for a new world. That's very much what socialism is about. And so, for me, I think about that day when I came here for a month, and it wasn't a month. I never left. So, there you go.
Yeah.
You have to just keep going. You have to just continue to struggle. So,
random thing, Caleb. I was watching a North Korean anti-North Korean video on YouTube, and it's like, I don't know. I still don't buy that at all. And then I just watch it, and it's like, I don't know. They said what's it? Kim Jong-un's sister. She's like one of them. She's part of the cabinet or something, and it's like, I think that's badass that she's doing that. And I'm like, that's really, I like that. I don't know, but then they make it seem like, oh, she's this and that. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I really don't buy none of that anymore. But
like how many people in our government are related to somebody else who's in the government?
Exactly. And I'm just like, okay, so like, what's, what is this gonna do? Like, they got like the whole gotcha stuff in their documentaries. And I'm like, I don't know. I just get tired of that stuff. So that's why I appreciate when you like send like what books we could read that talk about that. And I'm all like, okay, I'll read it. And then like, it's not true, whatever. And it's like, I have a mind on my own now. Like I could think for myself in that sense of like, no, that's not true. And blah, blah, blah. And that's like, if people knew that we're trying to build a coalition of people who are like-minded, and we might not agree with everybody, and that's why I think it's important at like being a member. Like, we might have disagreement, we might not agree, but like we always have to learn how to forgive each other and forgiveness, and then just move forward. Because I notice a lot of circles, they do the whole like the cancel thing, and then they never forgive the person, and then the person goes through some sort of deep depression, and it's dangerous. So it's a lot of psychological issues going on with these like leftist groups. And that's the thing that I can't stand or tolerate is psychological, like being that they cancel out people because of a little mistake that they've done that could have been easily solved by just approaching the person and being straight up with the person. That's one thing we have to practice, is just be straight up and let the problem, like try to solve the problem, and from there like try to move forward. And
yeah, not view every disagreement as an opportunity to get famous on the internet.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So that's why I appreciate everything you do, because it's like, you know what, like get over it and move on. Like, it's just, it's just little things that happen here and there. And I know it's like siblings, we might not agree with him, we might fight, but like, we have to find some sort of resolution or something. And I think that's like, in a way, I like this group because a lot of us are like grown-ups and like we're adults and like we kind of figure it out. It's not a child playground. It's something serious. It's about our livelihoods, basically. So that's why I love CPL.
Yeah. Well, we're all committed to having a group. And I think, that, nowadays, if people don't want to have a group, they can just stay home and be on the internet, right? So everyone is a person who is committed to having an organization, which means that they understand that they're going to have to, they're going to have to, be tough, and they're going to have to deal with not always agreeing with everybody and stuff, right? And that's important. And I think that, in the past, there are a lot of people that just see this as a form of passive entertainment, and I love that. I mean, if you want to watch my streams and get entertained by them, by all means, do so. That's why they're there. That's why they're there. I guess Gavin's not really coming through. I don't know if his
and then Caleb, you changed my life in a way of like when you released your RedTube Serves Imperialism. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, the left circle is it's toxic and it's going nowhere, really. The new left or whatever. And when I found out the certain people you were talking about, and like it's funny because a lot of those lefties people that are their fan base, they read your book, and it's like, yeah, I'm glad they did, and they think it's like, I gotcha, look at, and I'm like, it's actually a great thing that they read that. And I really hope a lot of those people realize that they're not really there for you. It's just online and it's not real. So it's like, I kind of, in a way, they need to find something like this to be, and like, in a way, I don't know, I don't like to say like saved, but they need something to make them feel alive again, you know. And like, doing that, it's like hatred, and negative depression posts, and like, oh, ha ha ha, like they kind of like idealize like suicide, and I can't say that, but that they kind of fantasize about that a lot, and I didn't like that either. And that's why I remember, like in 2020, I was becoming more of a conservative. Like I was defending the police state and all of that. So I was doing I was changing, and I was part of the PragerU. Like I was watching a lot of those videos, and I was like becoming very conservative in 2020, and I was watching like Tucker Carlson. I like him, but I was watching him more. I was watching Fox News, and I was like doing all that, and I was like, yeah, like I was becoming straight up conservative. So it's like,
in reaction to how negative the left circles have been.
Yeah. So they kick all of us out in that sense. So that's why, like in 2021, that's why I like read your book. I'm like, this makes so much sense. And then what's his name, Dr. Hassan, or that he's like, you need to deprogram all of those Trump supporters and all this type of stuff. It's nonsense. And it's like, yeah, you're basically torturing, or want to do some sort of torture program again or something like that, So it is scary. So it's like I try to make people aware of those things, and they really didn't know that stuff, and I didn't either. So I'm like, I'm kind of thankful that we have people like you,
Well, thank you. Well, I do my best. I really do my best.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you. You're well loved in our organization. So You know, everyone was really happy you were at our conference, and we're really glad.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. I'm happy I held the American flag. I was like, yes, America. I used to like hate my flag and be so embarrassed about being American and like I hate America and like, you know, it needs to burn down. You need to, you know, whatever, you know, like all that stuff. And they did a good job doing that at first. And then the whole I didn't like being called American. I'm like, I'm Mexican, okay? I'm Mexican. And then as I gotten older, I'm like, yeah, I'm Mexican and American, whatever you call, you know. So it's like now I'm a proud Mexican American. So it's you know, so yeah.
Well, I hope you had a great Christmas with your family. I saw your son was there, was kind of climbing on you a second ago.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, so keep doing your work, and I
will do.
I keep praying for CPI to become something incredible, and I pray to God, and God told me to stay, you know, and I'm like, you know, okay, I'm staying.
Well, we got a big year ahead of us. We got a big year.
Yeah,
Thank you for all your hard work, Gabby. I know you do a lot of.
I'll try. Okay.
All right. Stay strong.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Great. Well, anyone is, you know, people are welcome to hop on the stream. We got a few people lined up here to come on. So I'll put the join the stream link. We'll keep doing this for a little while, and then, you know, and then I know that there's 8 super chats that have come in, and I do want to give an answer to those super chats. You know, so we'll bring some of those people on. So I guess now we're going to bring on a guy named Chase. Chase, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? I just want to tell you happy birthday, man.
Thank you. Chase, have we met before? Or are you just an online viewer? Have we met before?
I think I met you one time in Austin.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So what's on your mind these days? Are you still in Austin? Are you in Texas?
Yeah, around Houston. So
okay.
I actually just got done having a debate with some Christian Zionists outside of a gas station a minute ago. So, and admittedly, I don't have a whole lot of good like theological arguments against Zionism, but you know, one thing they kept accusing me of was making just purely political arguments. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's interesting because at the end of the day, right? I mean, if the Bible does say that you should do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God, that's very clearly not what Israel's doing. You know, and if they want to have big theological arguments about Israel and all of that, I mean, you can just say, look, I mean, I know what right and wrong is. Israel is doing wrong by bombing the hell out of Gaza. You know, that's one thing I've noticed with Zionists in the past. When I was in New York City, I used to have a literature table, and they would come up to your table. And they'd come up to you and they'd be like, well, you know, according to this treaty, according to this law, this year of the, and I'm just like, I don't care about any of that. They're doing wrong. They're persecuting the Palestinians. They're killing innocent people. They're depriving people of their basic human rights. And you can, you know, read me up and down all these treaties that you want, but it's like anyone can see what's going on here, right? That, you know, they say, oh, well, they October 7th, they killed what, 1,200 people? Well, they've at this point killed 20,000 civilians, you know, so it's not an eye for an eye, you know. I mean, this is just a genocidal killing spree that Israel is on. I mean, they're just trying to kill everybody, hundreds of journalists, hundreds of UN aid workers. I mean, they're just murdering people. So, you know, you want to sit there and say, oh, well, they're just protecting themselves from terrorism. I mean, it's like look at a map, look at the body count. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's there are certain people that are just really, really determined to support Israel. And it's really unfortunate, you know. When I was a kid, I remember a lot of the Christians, it became trendy to call yourself a Judeo-Christian, right? And that's a big part of the Zionist narrative, right? You know, all of a sudden we're Judeo-Christians. It's like,
is it like a modern kind of invention, or?
Well, aren't they then Judeo-Muslims? Like, I mean, because they believe in Abraham too, right? They believe in Moses and all of that. So then, I mean, it's just kind of a nonsensical thing, right? You know, you're Jewish if you're Jewish, you're Christian if you're Christian, you're Muslim if you're Muslim. I mean, they're all Abrahamic faiths, right? But all of a sudden we were all Judeo-Christians. That was pretty weird. I remember that, and that there was just a lot of effort to make Christians identify with Israel. You know, and that they've spent a lot, you know. I lost your image there, Chase. Did your camera go off?
Yeah, give me 1 second, man. I'm just trying to find a charger real quick. 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, like Mike Huckabee, you know, he flies to Israel every year, you know, and they take him around, and they've really invested a lot in trying to convince Christians that it is their duty to support Israel. And you know, I mean, that's just something Israel has spent a lot of money on doing. And it tends to be the more hard right-wing Israelis too, like the Netanyahu kind of crowd. You know, they tend to be the ones that they support. Whereas I think the more moderate Israelis are not so into the religious right. But what were the kind of arguments that the people you were dealing with out there in Texas, what were they saying? Chase, you still there?
Yeah, man, I'm here.
All right. So what were they saying?
Give me 1 second, man. My bad. Hang on.
Sure. What were they saying? Yeah, I just want to hear what some of the arguments that people were saying. And anyone else is welcome to join the stream too. We got, you know, join the stream. It's open. You know, yeah, you know, the stream is open. So yeah. Yeah, that's the link. And okay, it looks like we lost Chase, but there you go. Well, the stream is open. But you know, at some point I'm going to answer these super chats. You people that have super chatted, you have not been forgotten. We will get to answering those super chats. But if anyone else wants to join the stream, you know, we'll keep the stream open for a little while longer here. I guess we'll bring Jay on. Hey, how you doing, Jay? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Good,
Just want
good.
to let you know, happy birthday.
Thank you, Jay. What's new? What part of the country are you in, Jay?
I'm over in New England. We met over in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. That was quite an event, wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, what are you up to these days? What's happening?
There's been like massive Palestine stuff that I've been helping out at, preparing food, making sure people comfy because it's cold up here.
Okay.
So we want to make sure people are not freezing.
In there in New England, Vermont, I think there were some students, some pro-Palestine students that were shot.
Yes, there were. So
Yeah.
I was door dashing when that happened. So I saw them at so they were at this restaurant called Kismayo Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a Somalian restaurant. The owner died unexpectedly somehow. And they were there just having food, and then they left. And then I brought the food that someone wanted, and I was going by. And then I hear a police car just go all the way by, and I'm like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, it was like a hate crime. I guess these 3 Palestinian students that are studying in America were walking down the street and somebody just opened up on them, right? And was it actually a hate crime? They won't say. They don't know.
It was a hate crime, but these people are trying to be like, oh, we don't have enough evidence. But like it's just because they're race. They're just saying, oh, no, we don't have enough evidence. Like,
wow,
you have enough evidence. If it was any other person, you would scramble up and say this is enough.
Right. Well, I mean, drive-by shootings are not something that happens in Vermont very much.
It's not. Those are not things that happen in Vermont.
Typical day in Vermont, you know. So I mean, that's wild. And you know, and then there was that ugly hate crime in Chicago where it was like that family were all stabbed to death, the mother and her kids, and you know, it's like the hate that the Zionists preach, where they just preach this idea that Arabs are subhuman, that Muslims are all terrorists and are out to get us. I mean, there are some nuts who take that to heart and go and act on it, and that's, you know, it's awful. Chase, you're back now. You can hear us now, right, Chase?
Yeah, man. I guess I cut out for a minute, man. My bad. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, so I was asking you, Chase, what are some of the arguments that the Christian Zionists you were arguing with were making?
So basically, they told me. So like, I try to make a lot of like political arguments about Zionism and the origins of Zionism. I talked about the British Empire. I talked about the 1967 war and all that. Basically, they said they just didn't care. They said that I'm arguing politics and I don't care about like the religion, the theology that much. That's what they accused me of, pretty much.
Yeah, but those are facts. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, and, you know, they should just tell them Israel is about politics. And, you know, I mean, you can argue.
Like, sorry, it's a political thing. Like,
yeah, like, that's
like, I
yeah.
don't care. It's just about politics. Like, yeah, that's how countries work, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So, yeah, but there's whole YouTube channels. Dr. Stephen Sizer. I met him in Iran a few years ago at a conference. He is an Anglican priest in the Church of England who has like made it his mission to debunk Christian Zionism, which he sees as like an apocryphal outgrowth of the English, the Church of England. And as a Church of England priest, he's very opposed to it. And he gave a great presentation in Iran that was very dynamic about how Christian Zionism strays from the Bible and its teachings. And that stuff is really important. You know, I sent Tyler, who was on here before, he deals with a lot of that. You know, a lot of his family members, they are just very loyal to Israel because of the evangelical thing. And, you know, and so those kind of videos are very, very important. So I remember when I was a kid, you know, at my church, they showed the Left Behind movie. You ever see Left Behind? You ever watch that? Do you remember that? It was in the 90s. I had to watch it. I remember at my church, and it was this movie about how, like, this evil Russian guy named Nikolai Carpathia, who's supposed to be Putin, is like taking over the world, and he's gonna like take over Israel or something. And I remember watching it. It's this like, and it's, you know, it's about the rapture. You're left behind. All these people disappear. All the people who believe in God like vanish. You know, it's like an evangelical thing. I remember it was really big in like the early 2000s in the Bush years. It was like best-selling books. Everyone was reading the Left Behind books. They were like the big thrillers that everyone was reading, these evangelical books about the end times. And supporting Israel is somehow a really big part of that. I think Tim LaHaye is the guy who wrote them, and he's still big in evangelical circles. So, well, it's really great to have both of you on. You know, thanks for coming on and saying hi. You know, and yeah, I think what we'll do now, since we've had so many people come on, is I'm going to do the roll call now. I'm going to do the roll call. So why don't we do the roll call? I'll call you all out as I see you, names and locations. I'll call you all out as I see you, and I'll start answering people's super chat questions. And if anyone else wants to hop on while I'm answering super chat questions, we can do that. So who's with us tonight? Names and locations. For some reason, Rumble is not working tonight. I don't know why that is, but the Rumble is not working. But Rockfin is definitely working, and YouTube is definitely working. So we got Joe from San Francisco. We got Gonzalo from Buenos Aires. We got Rupert Fellows from England. We got Ryan in Kansas City. We got Tyler in Missouri. David in San Jose, California. We got Zach Brunch in Richmond, Virginia. JT24 from Mississippi. Martine from Queens, NYC. We got Terry, who says, I'm obviously a Capricorn. You should come on, Terry, and tell me why that is. I want to hear more about that. Why do I have the expression of a ram? We got Jenny in Cincinnati, Caleb in Ann Arbor, Colin in Greensboro, Mindanao to Midwest, Lumpia Logic, Scott in Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, Chicago, always having a nice community of strong-minded people. Very, very good. Louisville says, happy birthday. Chile near Valparaiso. Very good. Very, very good. I was born in the UK. All right. Born in the UK. I was born. Isn't that a Springsteen hit? I'm just kidding, of course. Of course it's not. That is definitely not, right? Alex in Oregon. Patch in Arizona. Carter in Minnesota. All right. Good times. Good times. South Texas. Represent the Pan American. Oh, you're in bed, Terry. That's okay. Capricorns are goats. They're goats. I thought we were rams. We're goats. Aries is a ram. Thank you for that important correction. Thank you. We both have horns. But one of us is a goat and the other is a ram. Thank you. I do not know my astrological stuff. So there we go. There we go. Gary Sullivan is from Earth. Is the stream still open? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The link is here. The link is here. You can hop on. Just, you know, it's open. You know, it's open. Briggy in Pennsylvania. Happy birthday, fellow Earth sign. Sydney, Australia. Welcome, welcome. St. David's in Bermuda. Very, very good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go through some of the super chats that we've got. If anyone wants to hop on, you're still welcome to hop on. We do have the stream is still open. If anyone else feels like hopping on, we've got such an amazing community here. So many great people in our community. So the stream is still open. That's the link. Oh yeah. When I had that South American astrologer on, that was pretty wild. All right, so we got Gala, and she says, happy birthday, Caleb. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Much love. And thank you, Gala. And shout out to you and your family out there in Texas. You're a beloved member of our community. Oh, and I guess we've got Carter.
Nice to see you, man. Nice to see you.
Hi, Carter. Hi. Have we met before?
My internet is kind of shitty, so if it disconnects, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Welcome, Carter. Where are you from?
Duluth, MN.
Oh, okay. You're Carter from Duluth. All right. I've called you out before. Welcome.
Yes.
How you doing?
Doing well. Wanted to wish you a happy birthday, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy 25.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm not 25, but there you go. But we can go with that. If you want to make me 25, I can be 25. So there you go. There you go. Got muted there. So what's on your mind tonight, Carter?
I just wanted to come and thank you for always giving my questions really, really good answers.
Okay.
A few days ago, we talked about Oswald Mosley. I thought that was an interesting little tangent we had. That was fantastic. I appreciated the answer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean Oswald Mosley, he was a very good orator. And actually, you know, it's kind of weird. I think one of his relatives, if I'm not mistaken, is like, so there was like, I think it was his wife or one of his kids or something. You know, she was one of the sisters. You know, there was there's the Mitford sisters. Do you know the Mitford sisters?
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so the Mitford, so Jessica Mitford was like, she stole a bunch of money from her dad and she ran away to fight in Spain, and then she came back to the United States and was in the Communist Party.
I think I heard something about like a wealthy family doing that, something to do with that.
Yeah, and she was related. She was like a cousin of Oswald Mosley. And then her sister was an arch conservative, and they would debate. But she became famous in the 1960s for like expose journalism that she wrote. She wrote what do you call it? She wrote The American Way of Death, which is a book about how funeral homes rip people off, right? And how they overcharge ridiculous costs for coffins, and they take advantage of people's grief and they rip them off. And it was a best-selling book in the early 60s. And Jessica Mitford, she's like a direct relative of Oswald Mosley, but she became a communist. And then her other sister, though, remained an arch conservative, and they would debate. They were the Mitford sisters. And it was like a thing. They would go on talk shows and argue. And her sister was a conservative and she was a liberal, and they were all related to Oswald Mosley. And Jessica Mitford would give interviews about how she met Hitler because of her uncle, or who was it, or her cousin or her dad or somebody. Somehow she was related to Mosley. So Mosley took her to meet Hitler one time. So she actually, one of the very few communists in this world who had actually been in the same room as Hitler, because Mosley was her family member. So that's pretty wild. But yeah, Oswald Mosley he's kind of forgotten, but it kind of shows you how many people in the British ruling class were, pro Hitler. I mean,
who's the king? King
Edward. He stepped down, and there was like at one point a military plot between Mosley and the military and King Edward. They were going to put him back on the show. On the throne at one point. So, it's some forgotten history. And then there's the infamous Battle of Cable Street, which, I almost don't want to talk about it anymore because, I think it was a glorious moment, but now it's associated with Antifa, and Antifa is such crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not the same thing at all, right? Like, these people were on the brink of taking power and violently suppressing labor unions and stuff, and it's like it's not the same thing. And it's like you punching your Trump supporter
or a Brexit supporter, something like that. No,
it's not the same thing at all. And so I almost don't want to bring up the Battle of Cable Street. I feel like it's been tainted by people that are just doing a cheap imitation.
The synthetic left, of course, that's what they do.
They
take over everything.
Yeah, no, when I was at the first World Youth Festival in 2013, I remember talking with the British Communist Party people, with Ranjit Brar, Jyoti Brar's, her brother. And he was saying, oh, this anti-fascism stuff is a big problem. And these Trotskyite groups, they recruit a bunch of teenagers and get them to go mix it up with a bunch of skinheads. And then the teenagers go to jail for a long time. And the older leaders of the Trotskyite group don't do anything to help them. And it's a big waste of time. And they're not actually learning to debate the right wing. They're just, being violent, and it's awful. And that was in 2013, before the Antifa stuff had really broken out over here.
Right.
And I remember hearing that and thinking, oh, that's wrong. It's glorious to fight fascists. And I look back and I think they were so absolutely right in what they were saying. And that in the 80s, that was just a big thing, is that you had this kind of revival of white supremacist politics or whatever, the National Front. And so all these trot groups would just get all these high school kids and teenagers to go fight them and get injured and then get criminal charges and get arrested and not do anything for them. And it just helped the far right. It made them look like the people are out to get them.
You said something about the National Front. If you haven't seen my profile, it's a profile of Lennon, John Lennon. So obviously I have a lot of respect for the 60s artists. And that made me think of wasn't in the 1980s there was like a revival among like the rock scene for like fascism? Like I remember
what's his
Bowie
name?
And then Eric Clapton had something, and there was like rock against fascism, which was kind of like with that movement, I guess.
David Bowie gave an interview where he said Britain needs a fascist leader, and he was saying a lot of anti-immigrant stuff. I've never heard anything about Eric Clapton, but I don't rule it out. I just don't know.
I think he said something like they need to go back home. Like the immigrants that were coming to Britain in like the 70s, 80s, they need to make Britain white again. Like really like intense stuff. Like like
Damn.
white supremacist shit. But
yeah, well, I know that, you know, I ironically like the music of Cornelius Cardew. You know Cornelius Cardew?
no,
right?
I've never heard of them.
Oh, well, Cornelius Cardew he was an experimental composer in the 60s who had like a big revelation and became like a Maoist and eventually a Hojaist, a follower of Enver Hoxha. And his music is like, we laugh about it. I like it ironically because it's very bad. It's like he decided.
I think I saw a video you talking about this.
Right,
Does it have to do with Canada maybe?
Well, some of it is Canadian music, and it's just it's pretty cringe. It's like all the lyrics are very, very forced, and you know, rhymes that are not rhymes, and he rhymes things with revisionism and Marxism, Leninism, and it's a little bit much. And I listened to it kind of ironically. Kind of with tongue in cheek, but apparently one of his claims to fame was he got the Musicians Union of Britain to pass a resolution condemning David Bowie, for those comments. And the other thing is apparently he wrote a book, which I really want to find a PDF of. I cannot find a PDF of. He wrote a book called Punk Rock is Fascist, which I want to read very badly. I want to see what his argument about punk rock being fascist is. If anyone in Britain can find that in an old bookshop or something, I really want to read his argument about punk rock is fascist because, I realize that, in a lot of ways, synthetic left culture was kind of a distortion, and that, some of this stuff about what do they call it? The Beatles, and what was the place that helped create Beatles music? I can't remember its name. It's like the British Advertising Institute.
Oh yeah. I've heard.
Yeah.
Is that kind of attached to LaRouche? I think I've
right,
heard about that. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like there's a
mute.
Just say ridiculously crazy things. There's a lot of people that that. I forget what it's called. What is that called? It's the name of it's like the name of a town or something, and it's like
a lot of that kind of Beatles were created by M6 or whatever it is. It's also reliant on this old conspiracy theory that Beatle guys know. Paul is dead, that they killed Paul McCartney and replaced him.
Is that the same thing? Tavistock. Yeah, is that the same?
Exactly.
I've heard that one, right? And there's a whole thing where you decode the albums. And...
Yeah, but that's like attached to like they were created and they were replaced to serve intelligence. It's like you get into that, and pretty soon you're just like, what the fuck am I reading? Yeah.
No, I mean, most people that talk about Tavistock are just completely out of their rocker. What is true is that there was something called the Tavistock Institute for Social Research that was created during World War II to do psychological operation research for the British military. And after World War II, they worked for private companies, right? They just did research on how people think. And, Theodore Adorno, who's the big CIA guy who wrote, the Authoritarian Personality. Right, most of the people he hired to write it for him. It's this big book. It's like a big new left screed. It's awful.
I think I saw a Thoughtsline video about that. No joke.
Yeah, the Authoritarian Personality. There's Tavistock people who were hired to do the research for this book. And it seems like there's some indication that the marketers, the record companies, that wanted to create, that they saw rock and roll was happening in America, and they wanted to make it really amped up, right? And so they did some psychological research, and Beatles music is a result of trying to find what made rock and roll marketable and exciting and amping it up. And that's all there is to it, right? It's not like a big Illuminati, brainwash. Right. It's just that, the same institute that was doing institute on how do you make effective war propaganda was very good at making, research on how to make things marketable. And, there's a lot of marketing research that goes on. I mean, mass marketing and influencing how we think. I mean, there's subliminal messages and, that's all real. That's not, that's not fake, and it's worth thinking about, right? And that the Beatles, they took what rock and roll was doing and they made it very, very potent. And that rock and roll music is based on Pentecostal worship music, right? Which is itself based on African religious traditions, right? That the slaves came from Africa. They had their African religion, but they came to the United States. They had to be Christian. But the heavy drumming and the prayer music, the African American spirituals brought with them some of the African prayer traditions, and then Pentecostal religious revival people kind of attached to that special kind of music and made it their thing. And out of that, you got like the development of rock and roll. It's all really interesting. And So you get people that take this little bit of truth and they go crazy with it.
Yeah.
And then you get other people that just say, oh, that's all the conspiracy theory. If you even so much as bring that up, you're anti-Semitic. And it's like, no, there's actually a really interesting story there. And that's what I don't like is when people play that game. It's like, we don't want to learn. I don't like that. I think people should always learn. You know, there is an interesting story there. It's not what the conspiracy people say exactly, but there is a story there, right? And there's always more to it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, one more thing about conspiracy and Beatle related things, because that's what I'm most knowledgeable about, and a little bit of Marxism as well.
Go ahead.
Since I watch you. But have you ever looked into or heard anything about John Lennon, the leader of the Beatles, that he was killed by a CIA plant? I got into this weird thing, and like it turns out that he was killed outside of his apartment, obviously.
Right.
And the doorman who witnessed the crime was attached to the Cuban exiles. He was a part of the Bay of Pigs. And that got a lot of people thinking, and he was maybe a plant or something like that. But just, that's so weird. It's so, like, why would a Bay of Pigs exile be outside the fucking Dakota in New York when a guy gets shot by this weird guy who's, like, talking about mind control? He talks just like the guy who shot Reagan. They're literally the same type of guy, like kind of a shut-in who's like lonely. It's very suspicious. I'll leave it at that.
What I've heard is that they both left a copy of the book Catcher in the Rye at the crime scene, and they both were somewhat like dementedly obsessed with that novel, and many people thought that was weird, right? And then also it turns out J.D. Salinger, who wrote that novel, there's very little known about him, but after he died, they did admit he was some kind of intelligence, CIA, something. Right. So there's that. But the main thing is, is the timing of John Lennon's death. You have to look at it. So Reagan had already won the election and had not yet been inaugurated. Right. And he had just come out of obscurity. Right. He had been kind of vanished for a few years, for 5 or 6 years. He hadn't.
Lennon? Yeah. He was raising his kid.
Right. And then suddenly he was public again. He had his new album that was out, Double Fantasy. And Reagan had just been elected. And, it seems like there may have been some concern that he would get political again, because the whole way he was able to stay in the country was that, he was going to play at the protests against the convention in 72.
The RNC, right?
Yeah, he was going to play at the protests against Richard Nixon. And they made him agree not to do that. In exchange for not doing that, they let him get his green card. So there was some concern that with him being public again and being, a liberal or a leftist, that he would be an activist against Reagan. So it makes sense that there might have been some, and that there were a lot of other weird things. I have at the end of my book, have you read this book, Where's America Going?
No, I don't think I've read that one.
Well, one of the appendices in the book is the timeline of 1978 to 1981. And I have John Lennon's assassination on there because so much was happening. The transition from Carter to Reagan. There was when you want to talk about the deep state, there was a fight going on in the deep state. It's the appendix in the back, appendix timeline, 1978 to 1981. There were so many things happening, during those years. And the death of John Lennon is one of them. It's oddly timed. It's so why is he being killed then? Well, maybe it's because he was popular again. He was on TV again. I mean, and maybe the J.D. Salinger thing. It's a book. There's not many books from that time period that are about mental illness. And that book is about a mentally ill young man who's grieving his brother's death. I'm not completely sold on John Lennon having been assassinated. I'm not sold on it, right? It's possible. The timing is odd. The J.D. Salinger thing is odd. The Cuban guy. And the other thing is there's a guy in New York City who's a teacher, or he's a retired teacher who's like a union activist. I can't remember his name. And he self-published a book about this conspiracy theory.
Oh, I think I've seen something about that. Yeah,
and that guy is a respected activist in New York City. I mean, for years I would see him at protests. He's an older guy, and I never knew about this history, but he claimed that he heard somebody bragging about John Lennon's death or something. He worked somewhere and he overheard someone bragging, we got him or something like that, and that's what inspired him to do years of research. And he's self-published a very carefully researched book. And he maintains, he hangs his hat on it, that it was an assassination. The other thing I mentioned is that John Lennon donated not just to the Black Panthers, but to the Healey'ites, right? To Jerry Healey, and I find Jerry Healey to be fascinating. Jerry Healey was a British Trotskyist who was a personal friend of Gaddafi. And there was like a famous actress, Vanessa Redgrave, that was in his group and, you know, used her time on the stage at the Oscars to condemn Zionism. And John Lennon apparently gave $20,000 to
20,000 back then. That's a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, he wrote a check, a very big check at one point to the Healyites, and he wrote some big checks to the Black Panthers. But then I've heard other people say that John Lennon had become conservative. I've heard people say that in his final years,
that he became a Reagan supporter by the end. Yeah, that's what his personal assistant claims. But he's kind of suspicious.
Yeah, so that, you know, so that doesn't match the theory that they were killing him. Yeah, you know, so I'm not sold on it. But the timing, and again, if you look at that timeline of everything that was happening then, I mean, the Iran hostage crisis, right? And then the Iran hostages get returned the very day.
It's have you ever seen the movie The Godfather? It's like the very end of The Godfather where they're killing people off. John dead, return the hostages, we're back in business. Conservatives are back in business.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, it's like, and it's just like boom, 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 boom. So many things are happening. And if you look at the timing, you know, of 1979, 1978, 1979, 1980, so many things were happening. And what's interesting to me is that so many of the like communist groups were caught up in all of it, right? You know, and when we're trying to figure out about like what communist groups and how they can function and divisions in the ruling class, that's why it's so important to me. And in the, you know, the new textbook I'm writing and all of that is because it's very clear that a lot of these communist groups were being used as pawns, you know, in a bigger fight between the old Eastern establishment and the Reagan upsurge of the military industrial complex. But then also, like, Reagan didn't want to have Bush as his running mate. Bush was very much an old money Connecticut Republican. Yeah. And then right after Reagan got elected, he got shot, right? Yeah. He got shot and Bush was president while Reagan was under, right? I mean, Bush was actually president. And then the guy who shot Reagan, John Hinckley, has bizarre family connections, you know, to the Bush family. And then
he was like having dinner with him a week before.
Neil Bush was having dinner with the guy, and then the guy who shot Reagan, they gave him he didn't go to prison. He went to a private mental health facility. Now he has a YouTube channel.
Right? Yeah, I checked him out a few times.
Yeah, and he's a songwriter, and he's not allowed to give any interviews about why he did what he did. But he's allowed to have a YouTube channel to like perform his songs. You know? And it's very bizarre, and it's like, so how do you shoot a president and not get, and
I mean, Mark David Chapman, the guy who shot Lennon, that guy's burning like in prison right now. The guy who almost killed Reagan, he's fine.
That is bizarre. But also in a private facility, then there's less transparency about what might go on, right? And that there's like special, the guy is very, very closely regulated about what he can and cannot do and such, and he can't give any interviews. It's like, Sarah Jane Moore, who tried to kill Gerald Ford, she gave interviews about why she did what she did. But, why can't Mark Curtis Chapman say why he, it's like, why has he been given a gag order by the court? That's weird. You know what I mean? And so, the whole thing is very odd. So, yeah.
Maybe you don't know this. Maybe this is a stupid question, but all those guys, those two guys we've been talking about, they never went to trial. You notice that? So they never had like a public trial where they could really get into it. They just had to say, you're going to jail. You're not going to talk. You're not going to have a big trial. You're not like, if Mark David Chapman had a trial, it would have been the trial of the fucking century. I mean, this would have been like the Johnny Depp trial or whatever, or the OJ trial, with cameras, news, but no, they just get locked away instantly.
And also that doesn't match, like, these assassins tend to do what they do because they want attention, right?
That's what they always say. Yeah.
Right. So why wouldn't they go to trial and try to get as much attention out of it as possible? So they're very good. Well, you have some great insights, Carter. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you're part of this community. Have you gotten in touch? We have local folks near you, I think,
I should get in touch. Yeah, I should.
Yeah, get in touch with our Midwest people. They'd love to get to know you. So anything else you want to say, Carter, before we end?
No, I'll be watching the super chats if you answer anything cool.
All right. Thanks, Carter. Good luck. Yep. All righty. That was great. That was awesome. All right. So now we have even more super chats. So we said our thank you to Gala and a shout out to Gala. So now Robert Lawrence is asking about the Fabian Society. Now the Fabian Society, this is interesting. The Fabian Society was a group of socialists. But they were reformist socialists, right? They were not revolutionaries. And their name comes from a Roman general, right? I want to get this right. I'm pulling up the Wikipedia page because I don't want to say it wrong. But their name, it comes from a Roman general who, I guess my understanding, it's Fabius the Delayer was what he was called. And he didn't fight directly, right? He fought, indirectly. He was Fabius the Delayer. He would wait and fight on his terms. And they called themselves the Fabian Society because they didn't believe in having a revolution. They thought they would wait it out and fight it gradually on their terms. Like they were social democrats, they were reformists. That was their argument, right? Is that they would fight gradually on their terms. And that the Fabians were anti-communist for the most part. Bertrand Russell and H.G. Wells. People don't, H.G. Wells, we all just know H.G. Wells as the guy who wrote The Time Machine. But people don't realize that H.G. Wells was a very important British intellectual. I mean, he was a science fiction writer, but he was so much more than that. I mean, he was, and that a lot of the very dark Orwellian, social engineering fantasies of the ultra rich, biological engineering and, mass brainwashing and mind control. You read all of that, H.G. Wells was very much an authoritarian. Stalin's interview with H.G. Wells is really one of the best pieces by Stalin I've ever read. H.G. Wells sat down with Stalin, and they had this interview that's published under the name Marxism versus Liberalism. And if you ever get a chance to read it, it's really, really good. And this is, H.G. Wells, the Fabian, interviews Joseph Stalin, and it's really good. And, H.G. Wells, a lot of the stuff that people now associate with the World Economic Forum, the degrowth fantasies, you'll live in a pod and you'll own nothing and be happy about it. A lot of that stuff goes back to H.G. Wells. And that the Fabian Society was it was about how can we kind of engineer society more effectively. And it stopped being about how can we empower the working class. And the socialism gradually just kind of turned into social liberalism. And that most British leftists hate Fabians. George Galloway, who I look up to in many ways, he did an interview one time on his show with a guy who was in the Fabian Society. And he said to him, he said, wow, he said, you are both a gentleman and a Fabian, and that is rare. And among leftists in Britain, the Fabian Society is very hated, as considered the ultimate sellout, reformist, old money, rich people wing of socialism, right? It's just considered the ultimate pro-imperialist sellout. They're part of the Labour Party technically, but they are the right wing of the Labour Party, and they're notorious for their social engineering fantasies, right? That they are, now Bertrand Russell apparently had refused to fight in World War I, but Bertrand Russell ended up becoming one of these big intellectuals up there with, and that the social engineering, the Malthusianism, the eugenics, the breeding people, the Fabians. And the sad thing is this is when people start calling these people communists, right? Is because, Bertrand Russell was, a socialist, a leftist, but he denounced the Soviet Union, in very extreme words, and he was very pro-imperialist. But he was a thinker that a lot of the more authoritarian wing of American politics, that Eastern establishment, that old England, the Anglo-American establishment, stuff like that, a lot of H.G. Wells, Bertrand Russell, they fit into that stuff. Now, as far as the Royal Society, I believe the Royal Society is a little bit, there's nothing socialist about the Royal Society. The Royal Society is just like a foundation set up by the British royal family that does policy research and stuff, right? The Royal Society, formerly the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge, is a learned society of the United Kingdom's Academy of the Sciences. And it's just it's an institute, it's just kind of like the Rand Corporation. And it's just kind of like any of these, any of these institutions that the ruling class, it's like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Asia Society, one of these places where they think up different ideas. That's what the Royal Society is. And it's used to put out kind of what the ruling class is thinking. Think tanks are very, very important, right? Think tanks are very important. The Heritage Foundation, the American Enterprise Institute, this is where the ruling class is dreaming up their policies, right? The CIA guys don't think of it, right? They just carry it out. It's these academics that get paid by big foundations to do the research, to dream up the ideas. I always tell people the CIA are like the producers, right? And if you work in television, right? The producer is not the writer. He doesn't write it. The producer is not the director. The producer is not the talent. He's not the actor. He's not the cameraman. All the producer does is kind of stand back and make things happen, right? And if everything goes right, no one notices the producer because everyone just does their job. And it's like the producer doesn't exist. But if anything goes wrong, everyone points to the producer and says, how can you let this happen? That's intelligence agencies. If they're doing their job right, no one knows that they exist. No one knows that they're influencing anything. Things just kind of happen and no one has any idea they're involved. But when things go wrong, everyone blames them and everyone can see that they're involved. And that's generally how intelligence agencies work. And think tanks are like the writers, right? They think of it, right? They don't do it, right? And, you know, the CIA never pays for it itself. The Ford Foundation pays for it. The Ford Foundation or the George Soros or the Tides Foundation, they pay for it, right? And they have politicians who carry out the policies and all of that. And the intelligence agencies are just the people that kind of, they're the managers, right, who make things happen. And that's the notorious, nefarious role that they play. We talk about Operation Mockingbird. People have it in their head that like the CIA was sitting there. What shall we make the media say? No, they weren't doing that. The Council on Foreign Relations was doing that. They were coming up with what the media should say. Then the CIA guys found people in media, and then they connected with somebody, and you know, the CIA, the intelligence agencies are the operators. They're the ones who get it done, right? But they're never the ones to actually do anything. They never want to leave their fingerprints there. You know, that's my understanding of how the intelligence agencies operate, and that their power and influence is all around us, and nobody wants. It sounds conspiratorial, but their power and influence is all around us. If you turn on PBS, right, there's nothing on PBS, especially, but it's even MSNBC, CNN, but especially PBS. If you're watching CBS, that is all CIA approved because there's no market incentive there. There's no advertising, right? They got, if you watch a PBS program, at the end it says, this program was paid for, and it's every CIA think tank you ever heard of, Ford Foundation, the Exxon Mobil Fund or whatever. And it's just all these think tanks. When you watch PBS, you are watching what the intelligence agencies want you to see, unfiltered. Now, if you turn on regular TV, you're generally watching, number one, what will make them money, because they have to make money. They're profit-seeking entities, but there's also little nudges from the intelligence agencies. It's very interesting how this works. You know, so PBS, you were just blatantly watching what American intelligence wants you to see. And that's why PBS is so damn boring. I mean, there's no market incentive. It's often boring as hell because it's just what they decided you should see. Whereas, you know, and then Fox, the reason that Fox has always been the odd one out in American media is because they are so ruthless in trying to make money, they don't listen to the CIA. They will put people on who they're not supposed to put on because it'll get them ratings, right? They don't care. How many Bernie Sanders debates does Fox News have? Do you think they agree with Bernie Sanders? Of course they don't, but it gets ratings, and so they bring him on, right? Fox, they just want to get ratings. They have the sexy women, you know, with the cleavage, the blonde hair, and they do this weird psychological trick where they're socially conservative, right? And they're telling you that there's too much porn in the world and that we need to crack down on sex, while they have beautiful, you know, blonde women, you know, with cleavage talking about it, you know, and it's like this weird game. It's like turning you on and then making you feel guilty about being turned on and then turning you on some more. It's like a weird, demented psychological game they play. I mean, everyone knows that Fox News has the most beautiful commentators on there, right? But everyone also knows that Fox News are the socially conservative ones that are telling you, oh my God, there's too much pornography and we need to crack down on it. So they're turning you on while they incite you against pornography. That's a game. That's a psychological game. It's a psychological game. It's like Coke. When you drink Coke, right? Coke makes you thirsty. Did you know that? When you drink Coke, it makes you want more Coke. And that's why we love Coke, right? The baby enjoys pooping, right? Because it's satisfying when the poop finally comes out, right? You know, we all crave to, you know, if you never got hungry, you wouldn't enjoy eating. The reason you enjoy eating is because you're hungry, right? And it's this psychological game. And Coke, you like Coke because it makes you want Coke. Coke makes you want Coke, and then you go have Coke and you like it. And so it gives you a craving for Coke. It's like a psychological game, right? And that's what they're doing on Fox News. It's very interesting. But Fox News, from the beginning, even back in the Bush years when they were very pro-establishment, they were always so ruthlessly, they just wanted to make money. And that always kind of made them hate it. The CIA tend to be more liberals, right? The intelligence agency, they tend to be more liberals because their job is thinking long-term about how to stabilize the interests of U.S. imperialism. And the CIA have clashed with the military-industrial complex because the military-industrial complex, they want to make lots of money. They just want to make money by blowing shit up, and they don't care if the rest of the world likes us. They don't care. They don't care about international relations. They just want to make money. And so that push and pull, that's the Yankee and Cowboy War. That's Carroll Quigley and the Anglo-American establishment. So anyway, I'm going to lose my voice here if I talk too much longer. But anyway, Gleb says, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Gleb. So good to meet you. I met Gleb at the Oregon conference. Gleb is awesome. All of what we talk about is very real to Gleb because of some family connections he's got. And we really appreciate you, Gleb. You're a great person. Glad to know you. Glad to work with you. Are you familiar with the book, The Earth Dearth? I am not, but I'm going to Google it because I feel like if I just say no, that doesn't do it justice. You did super chat. The Earth Dearth. The Earth Dearth. No, it's the Birth Dearth. I don't see Earth Dearth. I see Birth Dearth, right? Birth Dearth, but I don't see Earth Dearth. Birth Dearth is a book, 1987 book that refers to declining fertility rates observed in many modern industrialized nations. I'm not familiar with that book. Okay. All right. Is David Robick's copyright safe? He has a great video on his YouTube channel, Song for the Houthis. I have tried to download it before, and I've not been successful, but let me see if I can get the Houthi song on there. Because yeah, I am thinking about writing a book about the Houthis because I feel like, I have a particular attachment to the Yemeni revolution and all of that. And, I feel like I really ought to do that. So, I'm going to see if I can find that song and we can play it. I tried to download it before, but maybe it was too fresh. Sometimes if links are too fresh, you can't download them. But let me see if I can do it. I can do it. I can find this Houthi song. Oh, there was a Houthi song, and I don't know. I'm joking, of course, but there you go. It's definitely not a Houthi song. It's a David Robick song about the Houthis. And let me see if I can find it. A song for the Houthi army. Oh, okay. So here it is. Let me see if the download link works. Let me see if I can get my software to download it. And if so, I will put it on because they've translated it into Arabic. And it's a big hit all over the Middle East. People all over the world are listening to David Robick's Houthi song. It's really, really great. So I'm downloading it right now. Nope. It still won't let me download it. It says cannot parse the link. Nope. Not going to happen. I do not know why. I do not know why it will not let me download it, but I cannot download it. It just will not allow it. So if anyone can find a way to send me a file of it, I would love to play it on here. But yeah, my software just will not let me download that song. I do not know why. Every time I try to download it, it says cannot parse link. So there you go. There you go. Sorry, John. I tried. All right. I've seen a stupid claim being used by Argentine libertarians that commies are lazy. They just want things for free. Yeah. That's an old thing. That's Margaret Thatcher, right? Communism doesn't work because you eventually run out of other people's money. And it's like, if all Mao did when he came to power in China was redistribute wealth that was already there, China would still be dirt poor. But China's now the second largest economy in the world. If all Stalin did when he came to power was redistribute wealth that was already there, the Soviet Union would never have invented space travel and defeated the Nazis. Communism is not a social welfare program. Communism is central planning of the economy in order to have unlimited economic growth. That's what communism is. I wish people could get that through their heads. I really wish people could get that through their heads. So yeah, I've heard that from conservatives so often. It's such a really common argument by conservatives. And it's just that social welfare programs that happen in every system, that is what socialism is. Oh, we have another guest, Sinna.
Surprise!
Hey,
happy birthday! Let me mute you on the actual.
All right, welcome.
How are you doing? Happy birthday, man!
Thank you. How are you?
Big fan, long time.
Great. Where are you located?
I am calling from Maryland right now.
From Maryland. Okay, very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, well, I'm glad you hopped on. Tell us about yourself, Senna.
Well, I don't know. I'm a normal Marylander working at, government, basically contracted with government.
Okay.
As you do if you live around here.
Okay.
Working from home, things like that. Normal life. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Are you a regular viewer?
I am a irregular viewer, more like every now and then I hop on, I do a thumbs up. If time allows, I stick around. If I don't, I just
Okay.
hop
Well,
back
very
in
good.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm glad you hopped on. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, Caleb, I wanted to continue a topic that you once replied to me on the comments, but I think it wasn't like a good environment to talk about.
Okay.
And yeah, it was about this whole Richard Wolff type of idea of democracy at work and his perspective on socialism. So you brought up an argument that usually when I hear it from other people that I respect less than you, I just put it on like, oh, this is nonsense. But since you brought it up, I wanted to actually entertain it because you said like, oh, these, it's no guarantee that the democracy at work type of management would also make the, good environmental decisions or good pro-worker decisions. It would automate, it would do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, because they're still trying to make profit, right? And they would compete with other worker cooperatives. And, all the problems of the market would be there. It's just that instead of just having the owner do it, the workers themselves are the owners, right? I mean, the workers become the shareholders, essentially, right?
So,
but we still have the problems of the market, right? That's the argument.
Correct. And I think I understand that side of the thing too. But I think a part that's not being taken into account in that response is that the reason why our management system currently would make such decisions is because they are basically guarded from any costs of that decision, right? The costs of that decision is specifically targeted towards another class of people, right? Another class of people are the people who cannot move if the water line comes up, is the people who would suffer most from the changing climate, is the people who would lose their job. They're not going to outsource their own job as management system, but they're going to outsource someone else's job. That's why if your vote means, okay, we are going to get rid of 20% of our workforce, but that 25% or 20% could be you or could be the guy next to you, right? I think that's where Richard Wolff kind of idea comes into play, into being better for these type of social decisions, in that the decision making is not separate from the people who are paying the cost. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, right now, right? I mean, if there's many CEOs that will tell you that they are environmentalists, there's many CEOs that feel, or have very liberal views, et cetera, but they are obligated to the stockholders to make decisions that will maximize profit. And they can actually be sued if they engage in decisions with any other motivation, right? And I would think that if you have a cooperative that's making chairs, right? And there's another company making chairs, and the two of you are competing, to who can sell the most chairs. One cooperative is going to have to win out. I mean, that's how the market. After a while, you're going to have competition between the two, and the one that produces the most chairs for the lowest cost is going to have the highest profits. And the laws of the market still are there. I see what you're saying about it, how could be the effect of their decisions would affect them. But also you have to remember a lot of these decisions are decisions that maybe they will affect society in general, the working class in general. They won't affect the people in that workplace. One example that I've given is one of the biggest problems we have in the United States right now is prisons for profit, right? Well, imagine that the guards it was a worker cooperative. Do you think they would treat the prisoners any better? I mean, of course,
Well,
worse, if anything. Often the
Mhm.
management is trying to kind of restrain the guards because they don't want to get sued, you know? And if
I could see no, but I could see a force added, right? To because everything is just like it's like physics, right? When a ball moves, it's like sum of all the forces that are acting on that ball. When a human makes a decision, it's sum of all the forces that are acting on that human. And the cold person who doesn't see the human action or human results of their actions on the prisoners, right, is missing that human moral force that the
But,
guardian person
well,
will
I don't
be
know.
missing.
In the Zimbardo prison study, it's not that they're missing a moral force. It's that when you put someone into the position of being a guard and when you put someone in the position of being a prisoner, the dynamics develop where you get kind of an us versus them mentality. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's just kind of the natural outcome of that kind of situation where guards can be particularly ruthless in many cases because they see themselves as kind of victims of the prisoners. And
That's also another force.
yeah, I mean, and I think you have a point there. I think that there would be, because these workers might be more exposed to the impact of their decision, they might be more motivated to engage in an ethical way. I can see that as a point, but I still think it doesn't overcome. For example, like maybe they wouldn't vote to fire their fellow workers, but they're not going to vote to expand, right? And technology still does. The fewer people that are there, the bigger your share is going to be. And so if with technology, there's fewer and fewer people, you still have the problem of fewer workers and fewer workers being eliminated by technology and people becoming poorer because of, I see like you still have the problem of production oriented for profit. It may be different. Those profits are shared, but I still see profits in command as the source of so much of the problem.
I do wonder why would you think they would then vote for expansion, for example?
Well, because if you're at a company and there's 5 people there, right, and you get an equal share with everybody else in theory, right? If it becomes a company of 10 people, then you get half of what you used to have, right?
Oh, I mean, as everyone would tell you, the pie is expanding too, right?
Well, right, and if the company is able to then produce twice as much, then that would be fine. No one would have an issue with that. But if you're able to then introduce a machine that means you can produce twice as much, and keep 5 people, you're going to want that machine. You're not going to want to hire 10 more people to share your profits with, right?
Well, there is always like machines. The way I see it, and the way I think Marxist perspective sees it, because there is a inherent view in Marxism that labor is the active production, right? And then machines are just a multiplication on like what is the production is. Their means of production is so I mean, at the end of it, where the technology is just matter of environment, right? And where how much people and where their labors is allocated it becomes basically if you have a machine too, right? You would basically, what I'm getting to is
But my understanding is that such an important part of Marxism is the centralization of the instruments of production. The idea that we no longer have entities that are just competing with each other trying to make profits, that we rather overcome the irrational profit motive so that growth is no longer restrained and we don't have the problem of poverty created by abundance. That's such a big part of Marxism. And I know Richard Wolff knows that. I mean, he knows that he's decided that the way he wants to go is with democracy at work. And my feeling is that in light of artificial intelligence and all that, we need to be emphasizing the irrationality of a lack of a planned economy. And so my emphasis is different, but there's nothing wrong with worker cooperatives.
Sure.
Great. Huawei Technologies is a great, Harvard Business Review says that they are the greatest example of profit sharing working, and that the collective farm system of they were cooperatives. They were farm cooperatives, and that Nicaragua is a socialist country I've been to. I really admire. I mean, huge efforts, and they have thousands of cooperatives, something like 10,000 worker cooperatives, and that many of the businesses they create with their micro entrepreneurship program are worker cooperatives. So I'm opposed to them. I just don't think they address the problem, which is profits in command, right? And that I've heard that some of the people that are into the worker cooperative thing, like Naomi Klein, they talk about, well, you can have the worker cooperative thing, but you also have to have like a government that's sympathetic,
right? Have you heard that? That's like they argue. Well,
what would that do?
You have to have a government that will like protect the cooperatives or something. You have to have like a state, a government that's gonna protect the cooperatives. And so they're kind of admitting the problem it's not just the cooperatives that are the answer. The cooperatives are like part of an overall socialist program because Venezuela has a lot of cooperatives, but the cooperatives aren't it. They had a government that was then able to, there's still a struggle for state power, I think, right? That's kind of
there is two things, two things I want to say in mirror of what you said. I also see a lot of value in the centralized economy.
Yeah.
I also see the downside that everyone talks about, that like if the central decision-making system somehow is corrupt or has corrupt elements, it just multiplies their ability to do corrupt things by that much.
But this is one thing. Go on, Sinas, go on. Yeah.
Yeah. What I always say is, if you think uncentralized economy is better than centralized economy just textbook-wise, then it's basically saying making decisions with closed eyes is better than making decisions with open eyes, which is what the centralized economy allows you. It allows gathering of all the information, all the needs of the system.
For some fields, you can do that. You can allocate this much electricity or this much gas for this region. You could build this many hospitals. And that's where I disagree. I was sitting down with a communist leader who I very much respect. And I was sitting with her in a Mexican restaurant. And, she is one of these hardline, we got to go back to the way Stalin did things. And I said to her, how could we have a restaurant like this? And, we're sitting in a Mexican restaurant. How would a socialist planned economy create this? And, the answer she gave was, well, we won't have this, but the food will be much more healthy. And I'm like, yeah, but people want to, go out on a Saturday night and drink margaritas, and no state central planner is going to say, all right, and then we're going to build the Mexican restaurant so people can go there, and they're not going to do that, right? And that, that for things that make life pleasurable, right?
Yeah.
Like
hard to see how they would do it.
Yeah, children's toys, you do need a market incentive for that, right? That and that, like the Soviet Union, that was where they lagged. They had no problem. They could make steel amazingly. They could produce electricity, and they were raising the living standards. But it's like when it came to like clothing, right? That that in order to change the when a type of shoe, I forget what it is, like a certain shoe became more fashionable. Like it took the Soviet government like 6 months for the bureaucrats to decide, okay, we're going to start making this type of shoe now because this is what people want. And by that time, the fashion had changed, right? And that that's where the West was always able to beat the Soviet Union, was that on the consumer goods front, right? Is that people vote with their dollars for fun stuff, not for the necessities of life, right? And electricity, healthcare, education, steel, raw materials, right? I mean, crude oil, petroleum. I mean, all the basic centers of the economy, I think, have to be planned strategically. Sure. But the stuff that makes life fun, I do think you need market incentives for. And it's better if it's cooperative, because then no one's exploiting anybody else. Then everyone who works at the company gets a share of it. So,
that's right. Yeah. I want to play devil's advocate on that if you have time.
Okay.
Because I agree mostly with it, even. But I kind of feel like one thing is, I'm not sure why wouldn't the government be able to tell we need a Mexican restaurant here, right? And second is that I always think this is true with the market system, market incentive, because the way we get to the market equilibrium, right, is by businesses failing, right? But by just someone making a gamble on a business and then failing.
Yeah.
So that failing business is failed resources, is failed allocation, is failed labor. And the way market economy is so, what you call it, efficient, everyone says it, is by outsourcing those costs. Be like, oh, that cost, that's not our resources. That's not the resource of our country. That's the resource in that guy's pocket. You had no right to it. That hungry kid over there could not have been fed by it. And because of that, it doesn't matter that it was lost. So I'm always kind of bothered by that perspective of what the market economy, that it's just putting the costs under the rug. And that's why, even though our numbers are so much possibly better every now and then, from like the what do you call it, centralized economies. You see centralized economies catching up. Like, I mean, a very centralized economy that has no right of existence is Iranian economy right now, right? And their numbers are terrible, but because they don't have a certain type of what do you call it, waste, basically, kind of feel like they might be better in reality than meets the eye. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, poverty alleviation, Iran's economy is very strong, and it is very state-run. And I point that out to people all the time. It's like something like 80, 90% state ownership. I mean, there are private companies all over Iran, but those companies all get a government subsidy, and there's somebody telling them what to do. And, you know, and I noticed that when I was in Iran, it's like, you know, and that's one of the things, that's why, I mean, again, such a big important point of what we do at CPI is like Libya was very clearly a socialist society. It was not a capitalist free market country, right? But a lot of Marxists have it in their head, well, Gaddafi wasn't a Marxist Leninist, so that's just bourgeois nationalism. It's like, like Iran today, they don't call it socialism. They call it not capitalism, but Islam, I think is the term they use.
Yeah.
It's very clearly.
No right.
Yeah, it's very clearly a state centrally planned economy. I mean, absolutely in every way. You know, and they have those things like in every neighborhood, the Basij councils, right? Where it's like it's almost like a Soviet or a committee to defend the revolution, right? You know, it's like a local assembly or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Iran's economy is very similar to China's. It's probably more state run than China's is at this point, wouldn't you say? You know,
I actually wouldn't know that because I both in last 10 years, I lack information about Iran economy, and in last 30 years, I lack information about China economy.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you, Sina. It was a great conversation. So
it was great talking to you.
Good to have you. All right. We've got another person who's on here. Alex Dillard. Are you there? Alex, I know you. So I'll let you turn your camera on. I usually make a rule that they have to show their face before they come on. But Alex, do you want to turn your camera on?
I'll turn my camera on. 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll turn my camera on.
All right. Very good. Very, very good. All right. And yeah, John McCarthy says it was the first one, but we couldn't do it till Gavin got back in town. Yeah, Gavin's a great member of our community. How you got to NYC sounds like a blues song. That's funny. That's very, very funny. That's hilarious. There you go. I got on the Greyhound bus, as they say. Well, I'll keep answering super chats while Alex gets his camera on there. But yeah, there you go. I don't listen to many blues songs, so you'll have to fill me in on it. I should have taken a dog with me, right? Is that like in a blues song, don't you like take a dog with you? And I don't know. It's the stereotype of like a blues singer. He has his dog and he has his little his guitar case or something. I don't know. But there you go. Sounds like a blues song. And the Pan American says, great interview with Kim Iverson. Yeah, well, that was a great conversation. I'm really glad it could happen. So I'm really glad that Kim decided to give me a platform there. What's new, Alex?
Yeah, I was just coming in to say happy birthday because I saw it was your birthday stream.
Oh, thank you. Good to have you here. How you been?
I saw you in Portland and I thought it was a great event, and I hope you put on more like it.
Yeah. I think it was a really, really successful conference. More videos are coming out soon. They're being edited right now. It's hard work because we had so many different camera angles and stuff, but I think the videos that have been out so far have been a real hit. So yeah.
If there's one thing I'm really grateful for, it's that I got this at your event. You know what this is?
Oh, okay. No, I don't.
Herbert Apthecker's book on the American Revolution.
Oh, okay.
It was a 1960s print. This is a book that, like, obviously Herbert Aptheker, I don't know if he was a member or a fellow traveler with the Communist Party.
He was in the Communist Party, yeah.
Yeah, their works are very important to the CP's history and to the CP's understanding of the American Revolution. And this is like a 1962 print, and I got this at your convention. I forget who the guy was that was selling it, but he was selling
the Trinket Man, Carl the Trinket Man.
Yeah. He was also selling Fox Green's pamphlets, which I also have.
Okay, very good.
A copy of. I also have a copy of right here. If Fox Green's watching this, shout out to him.
Okay.
Here's a pamphlet by Fox Green on degrowth tankies, where he kind of addresses Midwestern Marx.
Right.
And but I'm really happy that I got this, because it's really hard to find, and I can't even find like a PDF of it on the internet. And if anyone can find this book, I highly recommend you get it, because it's very underrated, and honestly, it's probably one of the most important books, if not the most important book I've read.
Yeah,
on the
well,
American
Herbert
Revolution.
Apotheker, he was considered like one of the greatest scholars of African American history. And he was in the Communist Party, and he wrote books about slave rebellions and such. And he was like kind of blacklisted because he was in the Communist Party. And he was kind of a long time spokesperson for the Communist Party. He was a spokesperson for the Communist Party. And there's a lot of talks he gave throughout the 70s. He wrote a book about Hungary called The Truth About Hungary, which is about how the Hungarian uprising in 1956 was a pro-US CIA thing. That's very good. He wrote a number of pieces. There was a weird thing that happened, which is very unfortunate, which I don't even know what to make of it, but his daughter is Bettina Apotheker, right? Do you know the name Bettina Apotheker? And she was like a childhood friend of Angela Davis, because Angela Davis's friends were close to the Communist Party, and so was Herbert Apotheker. And she grew up with Angela Davis, and she's like she was a good friend of Angela Davis, and she accused him of being a child molester, right? And so she basically wrote this autobiography saying that he had molested her, and this was before Me Too. This is before anything, and so it was very controversial. She apparently reconciled with him, though. She did reconcile with him. And there's debate about whether or not, like, because apparently she was like, Bettina Apotheker was like hypnotized or something when she had the memories. So people wonder if it really happened or if this is just like a hallucination or something. It's a very weird story. But Herbert Apotheker was considered to be one of the top intellectuals of the Communist Party. There's a very good speech he gave in the 1970s about the Catholic Church and how it was like how there were different priests that were coming to terms with becoming more friendly with the Communist Party. And that's he gave it at UCLA, and I really enjoyed that. And his books are out of print, so yeah, I'm glad that book is available. Do you know who the publisher was, Alex?
The publisher was New World Books.
Oh, okay, so this was like an original edition. But
yeah, it's 1962.
Yeah, because it'd be great if Herbert Apotheker, his writing on the American Revolution is really the answer to this, 1619 Project crap.
And Gerald Horne.
Yeah, it's really the rebuttal to that. It's very much the rebuttal to that. So, yeah.
New Outlook Publishers, it will be producing a new version of this. We will be republishing it, and we will be the first people to have republished it in over 30 or 40 years. So stay tuned.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Well, there's a space that is used by PCUSA and New Outlook and stuff that's also used by us. That's where we're going to be having our spring workshop. It's going to be in Vermont. That's going to be in May. So we're in the process of selecting the date, but we're having our national CPI workshop that's happening in Vermont. So hopefully I'll see you there, Alex. That'll be fun.
If it's going to be there, I'll be there.
Yeah. And, it's going to be, it'll be in Vermont. And, February 17th, we got Rage Against the War Machine 2. That's going to be pretty awesome. We're official sponsors of that. We sent in our funds. Our name should be on the website soon. I talked to Angela McCurdle about it. So that's happening. And then, a lot of different things are in the works for the spring. So, anything else that stood out about Oregon you want to share, Alex?
So besides the fact that there are awesome speakers, Scott Ritter, Garland Nixon, Jody Brar, they're all the rest, I got to see some comrades from my own group, the PCUSA. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was cool was how Garland Nixon stayed in like the guest room that like everyone else stayed in, and it showed that like he was really connected to the people in CPI, and that he really and he could have stayed in like his own hotel or whatever, but he decided to stay with the people in CPI. So it shows that he really does care about CPI, and he really does care about the work we're doing here.
Yeah, no, he wore this shirt on a stream recently. Did you see that? That was
I saw it.
Yeah, that was really great. And Garland Nixon is awesome in so many different ways. And he and Jyoti are doing regular streams now, from what I understand. They're going to have a regular. She's going to be a regular because his audience, just loves Jyoti. And now we're making great connections, building a real anti-imperialist movement. So, and I thought that meeting that we did Friday night, that was like a joint PCUSA CPI meeting for World Anti-Imperialist Platform, where we sang and stuff. That's going to be awesome. And we're going to make that meeting all one video. And I thought that was really, really good. We're going to be editing, Peter is going to be editing that pretty soon, and that'll go up on the web. And there's so much video to put on the web we crammed so much into just a few days. We did a workshop the next weekend. So thanks for hopping on, Alex, and Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday with your family. I hope you have a great new year. Thanks for coming on. All right. Thanks. All right. Great. We got to get through these super chats. Happy birthday. 2 years ago today, China's East Tokamak broke the world's record for the longest sustained fusion reaction. Yes. And H-made plasma. We need to get, if you're worried about climate change, I'm not ready to say climate change isn't real. I'm open to it, but I'm not ready to say that. And I'm not a scientist. And I always tell people, if it's a science debate and you're not making science arguments, shut up, right? Because, you know, if it's a science debate, make science arguments, right? You don't want to do that. So I'm not ready to say climate change isn't real. But obviously, the solution to climate change is to get beyond fossil fuels to a higher energy source. That's their trajectory. Yes, if we were, you know, just like, you know, fossil fuels have their problems. If we were still burning wood to keep our houses, you know, warm, we would have deforested the planet a long time ago. But we got to a more efficient energy source. We started burning coal instead of burning wood, right? And then we started burning coal, you know, oil and gas, right? And we invented electrical heating, right? And that, you know, that the way out of fossil fuels is beyond, above fossil fuels. It's not reduction, right? It's not reduction. It is going beyond them. The human species is the only species that constantly reinvents its relationship with nature. That's what makes it beautiful. All righty. Happy birthday, Caleb. Well, thank you. I wish you the best and a happy new year to you. Happy new year to you. Tokamaks were invented in the USSR and the world didn't believe in their viability. Now they're the most successful fusion devices until maybe a stellarator. Folks, I know nothing. As much as I believe in fusion energy, I don't know enough about it. And I really wish that people who knew about it could educate us, could write about it, could speak about it. And we as CPI, we should be promoting fusion energy, right? Because our whole thing about there is no limit to human growth and our whole thing about not believing in degrowth and all of that. And we're going to need to talk about fusion energy a lot more. So if you are an expert on fusion energy, if you understand fusion energy, you know, and you want to, you know, give some presentations or help explain it to us, please, we need to give you a platform because it's so, so important. I don't know what a tokamak is, but if it's fusion energy, I think it's great. All right. I think Paul McCartney disappeared for a short period to have a nose job. Yeah. Well, that was the whole thing, right? There's many different angles to the whole Paul is dead conspiracy theory. That was a real popular thing in the 1960s. I never linked that to the Tavistock thing. I always thought those were a completely separate thing. It was just people were reading between the lines in some of the songs. And, you know, and I think the Beatles eventually heard about it and were having fun. But yeah, I never linked that with the Tavistock stuff. So yeah, that was an interesting angle that Carter had. Thank you, Kiwi Dave. All right. Hey, Caleb, happy birthday and all that jazz. I know the video games are not your jam, but I hope in the downtime you can try Soviet Republic Workers and Resources. Is that a video game? Soviet Republic Workers and Resources? Never heard of it. I couldn't imagine such a video game, right? In SimCity 3000, you can build a fusion reactor. There you go. Is this really a video game? This is a real video game. You know, it's a real video game. I'm not familiar with that. So yeah, there you go. You learn something new every day. Folks, this has been a happy birthday. This has been a great birthday. Thanks everyone who came on and sent their greetings. Thanks everyone who sent a super chat and a greeting. I appreciate and I love you all. I will be back tomorrow night. Let me remind you before I go, very important, right? And I'll put the link in the chat, right? Tomorrow at 6. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., this video will premiere. And this video is extremely important. This is everything that CPI has done this year. And afterwards, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Afterwards, after this video premieres, you know, I will go live, but not until afterwards. This video is very important. It's only 16 minutes long. It's not huge, but it's extremely important. I want you to watch it and I want you to send it to everyone. Right? You've got a family member who you've never told about communism. Send it to them. You've got a friend, you know, I want everyone possible to see this video. It's going to be on my YouTube channel here, and it's going to be on the CPI YouTube channel simultaneously at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Send it to everybody. Show them what a beautiful community we are. Show them what we have done. Show them what we are capable of doing. Let them know that CPI is marching ahead in what we're doing. It's going to be a great video. Make sure to share it and promote it and send it everywhere so that everyone can see what we're doing and why we are
an important community. It's called Our Movement is Growing. Report from Caleb Maupin. What did CPI do this year and what's planned for 2024? Send it to everybody. Post it everywhere. Tweet it out. Get it everywhere. I want everyone to see this because people need to know what we are capable. We are dynamite. The Center for Political Innovation is dynamite. We are dynamite, and we have so much potential. We got so many great plans coming up for the new year. So I want to wish you all the best, my best wishes, and I'm going to put on the closing music, and I'll be back tomorrow evening, one last stream of the year. So yeah, I'm going to put on the closing music now. Thanks to everybody who came on. I really appreciated everyone's company. We are an amazing group of people here, full of so much love and energy. It's really, really amazing what we do. So, all righty.
Upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.